I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you follow along with the Pledge of Allegiance and an invocation from Ted Martin?
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Please join me in prayer. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another great day in the Ozarks, even as we battle through some cold temperatures and some snow today. Pray for those that are affected by the weather, our city employees, and those working outside. Father, we are very grateful for a great 2023, for the services we're able to provide for our residents, businesses, and visitors. A very successful year. Father, tonight we're also very grateful for 200 plus great employees that serve, but recognizing several tonight that have made a huge impact last year and this past month as well. Father, we're also grateful for those in public safety, specifically the law enforcement today, as it is National Law Enforcement Day, recognizing their service to our community. Father, we invite you in these chambers. We lift up this agenda to you tonight and pray that all that we do be to your glory and honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Ted. Madam Clerk, we get a roll call, please.
LeBlanc.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Howden.
Here.
Milton.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Denham.
Here.
Fenton.
Here.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Human Resources Director Haley Hutchins, will you and the Director Woods please present Kimberly Wilson as the Employee of the Month for January 2024, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Kimberly, come on up. On behalf of the mayor, the board of aldermen, city administrator, city staff, it is my honor to announce Public Works Engineering Office Assistant Kimberly Wilson as the City of Branson's January 2024 Service and Excellent Employee of the Month. This award recognizes employees who have gone above and beyond and whose performance exemplifies the city of Branson views. Kimberly was nominated and chosen for her willingness to be proactive and pitch in until jobs are complete. Kimberly also designed software programs for fuel usage that tracks fuel usage for all city employees. She's worked very hard in a dual role, not only working in public works and engineering, but she also works down at our service center full-time, so split duty. We appreciate her excellence in customer service. No matter what it is, she figures out what needs to be done and doesn't stop till the job is done, and does so with outstanding customer service and a positive attitude. We appreciate all you do. We appreciate your attitude every day, and congratulations from the city of Branson.
Congratulations, Kimberly. City Administrator Stepp will now recognize our Employees of the Year.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Board and audience members. This is a very special honor that we're about to present tonight to recognize our Employees of the Year for 2023. We have two categories, Service and Excellence and Special Commendation. Within our categories, we have 6 outstanding individuals to recognize as they work together as teams in accomplishing their duties. Their peers at City Hall selected these recipients from many outstanding candidates. I would like to ask Parks and Rec Director Cindy Shook and Police Chief Eric Schmidt to join me in this honor. They're not getting the awards, they just get to be here for the photo op. First, we're going to recognize Service and Excellence category with this year's recipients from the Parks Department. Jim Cartwright, Richard Wenk, and Max Whitworth, please come forward and join us. These 3 were chosen for their exceptional, all right. These three were chosen for their exceptional construction work on renovating and updating several office areas within City Hall that were inadequate and outdated and affectionately referred to by me as it's like a 1970s bowling alley in here. And so they have dramatically brought us into the present, and we're now putting a very professional appearance moving forward to make the best impression on visitors to City Hall and, of course, our residents as well. They went above and beyond in this work. They were very challenging tasks to, keep from uprooting people and operations and the regular daily work that we had to do, and they were always very considerate of that. The highest of construction standards and maximum effectiveness. Gentlemen, I'm so proud of the work that you've done, and I know I've told you this one-on-one when I run into you around the building, but we can't do what we do without your extraordinary gifts and talents that you're so willing to invest and your spirit into the city of Branson. Congratulations. Next category is special commendation with our recipients from the police department. Would Alex Castor, Austin Mendoza, and Amber Eady please join us? Yes. You can clap for them as they're approaching. These three were chosen for their teamwork and life-saving actions in a very dangerous situation. By working together in their different roles, they saved the life of someone who was involved in a car crash. Additionally, their actions prevented further injuries by thwarting a potential explosion due to spilled gasoline near a lit cigarette. And for the record, the mayor was nowhere in the vicinity. Don't you love it when I ad-lib these things? Director Shook, Chief Schmidt, would you please present the signs, and together we will all take a picture and award these folks the commendation and the appreciation and applause that they deserve. Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations, all y'all. I was speaking for you. Okay. In the spirit of recognitions, I wanted to let everybody know it is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. Let's all take a moment and show appreciation for our outstanding law enforcement officers for all they do to make our city safe. Thank you, officers. Oops. It's my granddaughter. Honey. Got to keep the priorities straight. So, what's that? I'm an easy target. This is the public comment section of the Board of Aldermen meeting. At this time, the board will hear from citizens who have signed up in the order they are listed. Please note, the city clerk will let the speakers know when they have 30 seconds left, and a notification will sound when their time is up. We ask the speakers wrap up their comments upon hearing the 30-second warning. If a speaker would like a board member to bring an item down from the consent agenda for additional discussion, please note this during your request during comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Your Honor, we have one speaker, Cherry Webster, speaking on transparency and accountability.
Hello, Cherry.
Good evening. I'm Cherry Webster. I'm a 14-year resident of the city of Branson. My comments on transparency and accountability address consent agenda item number 3, receiving the P&Z minutes from 9/5/23. Since residents can no longer ask to have a consent item pulled down, and it's not really necessary since there's no approval on your part, just a receipt of the minutes, I'll present my comments now during this segment. But it would be helpful and informative to have one page from the minutes on the screen. Is it okay for Director Chad to pull that one page up?
Kathy, do
It is.
you have access to it?
It's staff report exhibit number 1, page 1.
Yes, give us just a minute.
Just that
It
one
does
page.
count against your time, so if it takes him 4 minutes,
Oh, he's ready.
He's fast.
Okay, so as you can see, the title of the P&Z agenda item is an amendment to the rules and procedures for conduct of P&Z commission meetings. That's a 9-page document that spans a multitude of topics. The agenda title and the minutes description are so uninformative, you would have no idea that the initial amendment proposed to the rules and procedures was to eliminate the public comments segment of the P&Z hearings. Nor would you know that Alderman Denham proposed an amendment to do the opposite, keep the public comments segment and have it operate in the same fashion as at Board of Aldermen hearings. Additionally, the minutes only record, quote, Cherry Webster spoke, end quote. It was not stated that she spoke in support of keeping public comments because it's one of the mechanisms available to hold officials accountable. As an example of accountability, she happened to use the annexation and zoning by plan of intent events of the Fountains on Fall Creek development project. The P&Z Commission was circumvented during that process, that zoning process, despite city ordinances and state statutes. And when presented with that fact during a public comment segment, the commissioners had absolutely no comments whatsoever. The minutes also don't record that 3 to 4 minutes into her comments, Commissioner Lloyd leaned over to Chairman Groman and stated something to the effect of, "We've already heard all this in the past, we don't need to hear it again." At which point, the chairman halted the comments and informed the speaker to return to her seat. The minutes also do not record the city attorney correcting the interruption and enforcing the current rules and procedures which allow speakers to finish their comments. The attorney did, however, make that point clear to Groman and Denham, but only after the meeting had concluded. I will say this, Chairman Groman called the following morning and apologized for the interruption. Apology was accepted. During the December 5th, 2003 P&Z public comment segment, which was the next held P&Z hearing after September, Cherry Webster spoke and presented the same information and asked to have the minutes modified. No modifications have been made. They're still totally uninformative. This begs the question, how does one go about modifying minutes? Is there an existing procedure to allow for this? Or is that another amendment that should be incorporated into the rules and procedures? Minutes are a formal record of decisions made by boards and commissions. As such, they should contain a certain amount of specific detail, especially for an impactful issue as removing a forum for the public to hold officials accountable for their actions. Thankfully, Denham's amendment was passed 5-2. Yes, there were 2 commissioners that did not want to keep public comment. Those 2 and a third are holdovers on the commission who were serving during the circumvention of the P&Z public hearing process for the Fountains on Fall Creek zoning. 2 come off in April when their terms expire. Unfortunately, the term for the third one doesn't expire until 2025. You're the body that appoints these commissioners. They serve for 4 years. That length of term makes accountability very
30
important.
seconds.
But here's a hint. They don't need to be reappointed. Thank you for allowing public comment.
Thank you, Jerry. Next is the consent agenda. Are there any items the board would like moved down from the consent agenda to ask additional questions or comments?
Mayor, I'd like to, you have something? Okay.
Not to play something down. Mr. Mayor, I just have a comment regarding the
Oh.
comment that was just made.
Sure.
Yes, I did make that motion because I feel that we need to continue to let our public feel that they can come into a meeting to speak as long as it is what that board can make a decision on. It's a, per area of expertise, and it's what they can do on the board that they're sitting on. I did ask how long our videos and audios are kept. And per state statute, they're kept for 1 year. However, we have an extremely transparent board and staff, and nothing's been deleted in quite a while, but that may not always be the case. So, and I don't know what the procedure would be, but in order to keep the history of our city, in order so that somebody can go back and look, I feel that we need to preserve it. And so if we could have staff look into maybe some type of guideline, ordinance that would allow us to keep our audio and visuals indefinitely so that we have a history, and also to ensure that the minutes do include at least what who the person is, what they were speaking on, and if applicable, whether they spoke in favor or against, so that we just have that history and we preserve that. Thank you.
Ruth, would you be okay if we, I'm going to ask Kathy to pursue this, but instead of indefinitely, maybe a 5 or 10 year period of time?
Sure, just so that we keep it for a specific length of time.
Kathy, would you address that? Would you?
Certainly, and we'll bring back a couple of proposals after talking to our team in IT and how it is that we do preserve that. And Cherry, are you, yeah, you're still here. I'm sorry. Every constituent and citizen that comes and speaks before our board should be always treated with the utmost respect, and I hope you know that's our intention here since I've come on board at the city. Absolutely, the challenge for us was the past way of doing minutes was like almost like a court reporter, which was very impractical, and people would be like, oh, you didn't quite get my sentiment right? So we tried to cut back and say, okay, who's here, but it should be more detailed than what I just saw up here. So we're going to find a way to cut it down the middle and make sure we're much more informative without writing dissertations after each meeting. So we'll find that middle ground and we'll bring it before you all and make sure you bless it before we implement. So thank you. Thank you, Cherry.
Thank you, Cherry. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Ruth.
Mayor, I'd like item number 4 to be removed from the consent agenda and placed as the first item on the regular agenda, please.
Are there any other? So, Madam Clerk, would you please read the items on the consent agenda as amended?
Your Honor, the items on the consent agenda are as follows. Approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for the December 12th, 2023 regular meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Board of Adjustment regular meeting minutes for the July 27th, 2023 meeting. Acknowledge receipt of Planning Commission regular meeting minutes for the September 5th, 2023 meeting. And final reading of Bill Number 6400, an ordinance appointing members to fill certain vacancies on the City of Branson Tax Increment Financing Commission. Your Honor, that concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
Do I have a motion approving all items on the consent agenda? We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you provide a roll call vote, please?
LeBlanc?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Howden?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Denham?
Yes.
Fenton?
Yes.
The result of the vote is 6-0, motion carries. Your Honor, the next item is the final reading of Bill Number 6385, an ordinance to authorize the mayor to execute a contract for economic development projects and use of the city sales tax revenue and tourism tax revenue for such projects.
Do I have a motion postponing Bill number 6385 indefinitely?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill number 6401, an ordinance to authorize the mayor to execute a contract for economic development project and use of the city's sales tax revenue or tourism tax revenue for such project.
You've heard the first reading of Bill number 6401. Do I have a motion approving this bill? We have a motion and a second, and we'll get a staff report from Joe Lauber. Welcome, Joe. As you're walking down, I want you to know this board is very excited to work with Holly. We've determined, well, further explanation, we have no need for your service. Just keep sending Holly down. We're very happy with her.
Well, I'm glad that that is working out well.
Welcome back, Joe.
Thank you. Let's see. Chad, do you have that presentation? Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Thank you for the great introduction, Mayor. I'll make sure that Holly knows how important she is. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Joe Lauber of the law firm of Lauber Municipal Law. In addition to our firm's role as city attorney, we have represented the city of Branson as its special counsel for economic development matters since 2016. Additionally, I've had the fortune to work with the city of Branson from a couple of my past employers on numerous projects dating back to 2006. Before we begin this evening, I'd like to give you a brief summary of what you'll see this evening, which will be a reset of the presentations that were given at the November 14th meeting. First, you'll hear from the city's representatives. I will present a high-level overview of the proposed development projects. If there are questions on the financial piece, we do have Tom Calico with Baker Tilly, the city's financial advisor, standing by. And then once I have spoken and any questions have been answered on that, the applicant will speak about their proposal. Prior to the November meeting, it had been about 4 years since I had last been before this board in my capacity as Special Economic Development Counsel, which you'll recall I had mentioned was the aquarium TIF. As was the case before, the request as was the case before, I'm talking about November, the request from this applicant is extremely simple, especially compared with other types of incentives requests that can come forward where they might ask for TIF, CID, TDD, and the other alphabet soup of economic development incentives. In fact, this applicant's request has been simplified further based on feedback received from the board members and from members of the citizens of Branson for you this evening. This request is, again, simply just between the city and a potential developer. It only involves a portion of potential city revenues that this project, if successful, is likely to produce. No other taxing jurisdictions are affected by this request, and no specific statutory authority beyond the city's authority to enter into contracts is required. The city would only be required to provide a reimbursement if the project is built and performed successfully. Just a summary then of the general application information. The name of the development in this circumstance will be the Mammoth Fieldhouse. You'll note that the applicant has dropped a request involving the immersive project that was presented previously. The proposed developers, Philcrest Properties, Heartland Center, LLC, and they have one redevelopment project that is located at 3299 Gretna Road. The gross total project cost is estimated to be almost $41 million, $40.8 million investment in the city of Branson. It'll be about a 42,000 square foot project. The project is projected to produce about $24.5 million in new sales tax and tourism tax revenues over 23 years, and the applicant is requesting $10 million if the project performs as projections would indicate. The approximate completion date would be June of 2026. The applicant will, again, walk through their project, but the Mammoth Fieldhouse is what is being requested for incentives for this ask. The proposed financing, we talked about last time, and this part really has not changed other than the scope of the project itself, and that is that it is a pay-as-you-go financing method. What that means is a developer comes in and they spend their dollars, and they spend, they may, get private financing, and they will spend those private financing dollars, but the project is paid for, it is built, and it comes out of the ground, all at the developer's expense. There is no piece of that where the city ends up having to finance any upfront costs. So again, all through private equity or debt from the build standpoint. If the project is built, and once the project starts producing revenues, only at that point would the public incentives kick in, and that would be a component of city sales and tourism tax reimbursement would form that incentive. The agreement highlights, there have been a few, obviously, edits to the agreement. In most part, it deals with the fact that the applicant has changed their request and has limited it down to just the Mammoth project. But, the obligations of the developer remain that they would build and operate the development project as proposed. They would report their taxes to the Department of Revenue, and they would provide to the city the number of visitors and the distance traveled to the city. Because again, this is something that is designed to be bringing new tourists to the city, and we want to be able to track that. The city's obligations for this agreement will be to administer the sales and tourism tax revenues received from the Department of Revenue, to reimburse the developer up to $10 million or up to 23 years. And again, if the project doesn't perform, it could be less, but that if it outperforms, it's capped at 10 million or it's capped at the 23 years. There is a change in the agreement with respect to the tourism marketing materials. There was some discussion from citizens and also from the board about the kind of the strength of the language that was in there previously, and that has been modified to make it clear that the city's responsibility with respect to this project in advertising would be, it could be indirect, which is common with how the city, when you have your ads that go out for tourism, you may have certain, entertainment venues throughout the city that you utilize, but you're not, required to use any, and that is also the case here. It's just, it would be an indirect application of that. That is my report. I don't know if there are any additional questions.
Joe, in our little update a couple of days ago, I thought that went from 10.5 to 10.3, and now that says 10.
10 on that. I may have Tom Calico jump in, or Alex if he's available.
Because I remember asking the question that
10 is the hard cap.
10
on
is the
it.
cap.
because in the a couple of days ago it said 10.3. So okay, so
Okay.
that's the
That
number.
may have been on a projection number.
Okay.
Again, the cap though is at 10.
Okay.
Tom's available if you
Okay.
need him. Just let you know.
I think, is your question been answered, Alderman Cooper? Okay, thank.
Any other members have questions for Joe? Hearing none, let's hear from, we can hear from Rob or Grant. Grant, are these photos going to be up on the slide deck also? Yes. Okay. So what we're seeing here will be up on the screen, and those online will be able to see them also. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Good evening, Mayor, Aldermen. Thank you for allowing us to present this again tonight, and thanks for coming out in the wintry weather. I know.
Rob, excuse me, would you speak in the mic a little bit?
Yes, sir. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, Councilman and Mayor, and appreciate you guys letting us have this opportunity to present this to you tonight, and I think you're going to be excited. A little bit of history real quick. My name's Rob Phillips. I'm from Tulsa, and I'm a developer for the last 35 years. I bought Branson Meadows from the Motley family, one of the founding families that I understand from Branson, about 20 years ago. And so I've been investing in Branson for the last 20 years or so. And, you know, with the Branson Mill, the trampoline park, and the various things we have here. But we were approached a while back by the Mammoth organization, and I'm going to turn this over to Jake shortly, but Jake here has started Mammoth. Mammoth Sports, one of the biggest sports contractors in the United States. They build NFL stadiums. They build all kinds of professional baseball stadiums. In fact, he'll tell you they're doing a lot of work for the city of Branson right now on your rec center. So a very well-respected group. They also did a lot of work for the Allison Sports Project I built in Springfield, Missouri, which was about a $34 million project we opened last year. Jake's very familiar with this type of construction, and can't say enough about him. The long and the short of it is we've got an opportunity to create the momentum that Branson Meadows has some reason been overlooked for various reasons for the last 20 years. Now, I understand with the big boxes going up on the north side of town, kind of passed us over once. And then we've had everything from tornadoes to floods like everybody knows. But what our intent here is to build a $40 million project that is going to be this sports project that will allow a lot of other development to follow. You have to have a development. I call it the Walmart approach. You put this big animal in there, the big gorilla of the mammoth. We will see hotels. We will see more restaurants. We will see more shopping. This will turn a catalyst into Branson. I'm confident. I've done it time and time again in different communities. This is a very class development. I can promise you anything that Mammoth does, it is only first class. This is something Branson will be extremely proud of. But one last thing I wanted to say is, again, I can't stress enough, this is no risk to the city. If we don't generate a dollar, we don't receive anything. If we don't perform and we put our $40 million up and build this and it's open and we generate a dollar, we don't receive anything. We're not asking for handouts. We're not asking for anything free. This isn't a TIF. This isn't a SID. This isn't any of that. This is what I consider the most fair approach to municipalities because we have to put our money where our mouth is. If we don't, the city is out nothing and we have gained nothing. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And again, thank you all so much for allowing us to present this. And let me turn this over to Jake now, which Jake Farrant, here he is.
Hello, Jake.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I'll start by apologizing. I missed the last presentation. I believe that was in November, and I told Rob that I wasn't allowed to travel because my wife was expecting, or is expecting, and she didn't want me to travel. So, but then we didn't get through on the votes, and so here I am tonight. She's due tomorrow. But I wasn't going to miss this. And, and we're so familiar with Branson. And Mayor, I appreciate everything and all the conversations you were willing to have with us and your staff, very polite. And, our experience with working with the city of Branson, just here in the past couple months with Cindy over there. And I think I wrote it down, Cindy, but she is the best administrator I've ever worked with, by the way. So,
Amen.
Yeah. And when I interviewed with Cindy, I basically just told her the Mammoth story. And I know that you guys have a busy agenda tonight, but I just think you have to know why we're here. And the Mammoth story is one where 12 years ago I started a sports construction company in my mom's garage. And I say sports construction, we had a lawnmower. We were mowing grass. So, and we come here and we're building the Branson Recplex. We're not all that much different. We're still just 100% family-owned business. We still bring our boat down here every single year. and just a Midwest family, and now we've gotten to do some bigger things. But the problem about Cindy's project and the 170 some other projects we did in 2023 is we build the project and then we shake their hands and then we have to leave. And we build these relationships with these great people like Cindy, and then we leave. The project's done. So our family kept thinking, how can we venture outside of sports construction and take what we do and further develop our roots in these towns that we work in. So that's the concept that started developing of Mammoth Fieldhouse. And, I know that when you get elected on a board, and I happen to sit on some boards too, and I will say thank you because it is a very thankless job. And what a tough situation any school board or any city council is in when you're sitting in front of the community and your vote and the vote that rests on you has to not only represent your district, but the entire community and the communities around you. And then in Branson's situation, you guys are voting tonight, not only on your district and your community, but all the different destination people that come through Branson. And Branson has such a wonderful reputation. So obviously, we want to recognize that heavy, heavy burden on you guys and all your votes, not just ours. But as we looked at Mammoth Fieldhouse, and this is pretty common for us to be in front of boards, and we started developing this idea, and we started using the things that we were seeing in the sports world come about. One of them is pickleball, one of the fastest growing sports in the world. Now, there's a reason, Mr. Mayor, that it's growing faster than anything else. It's because of athletic guys like Troy there. They can play it with their friends, but then the very next minute, he can turn around and play somebody like you, Mr. Mayor, in between smoke breaks. And that's why it's grown wildly, because elementary school PE teachers, their number one request right now from semester to semester is, hey, we need more pickleball gear. We need pickleball paddles. We need pickleballs. We need nets. That hasn't happened in elementary schools in decades. Nobody's requesting, hey, we need more basketball goals. We need more, that doesn't happen anymore. So now this new sport's taking our youth by storm. And then you go to these retirement homes. And one of our partners, Jim Klossman, owns more retirement homes in the Midwest than any other single individual. The reason that we're partners with him, we're putting in pickleball courts at his retirement places over and over and over again, pickleball courts. So you just think about that. Elementary schools and senior centers investing like wildfire into the same thing. The second thing is the Topgolf craze. And what has happened in Topgolf, and people don't realize it, but Topgolf has transformed golf, and any country club owner or a traditional golf person who used to hate Topgolf has now fallen in love with the Topgolf model. And the reason is because Topgolf put golf clubs into people's hands that would have never walked into a country club. But it's okay to walk into a Topgolf, and you're accepted there, whether you're the mayor or Troy. I'll keep using you two as the guinea pigs. And it doesn't matter how far you can hit the ball. Even if you dribble it off the deck, Mr. Mayor, it still registers on the radar. It still comes up on the screen, and you get points.
So you've seen me golf.
Yes. So once again, we're aspiring to young kids and adults, senior adults at that. The putt-putt part of ours and the outdoor activities, goes right along with what Tiger Woods is doing and his concept. But once again, putt-putt, if you will, and giving it the Topgolf experience, it allows a family or a date night. It allows them to do something that was intimidating and now it's not. So we took all these concepts and we said, hey, how come Topgolf isn't leaning into this? And how come Chicken and Pickle isn't leaning into this? And our architects, and imagine that, our little family-run business, we actually have our own architects, said, well, hey, we hear you, and here's what the rendering looks like. And we all clapped and we all celebrated. And then the estimators told us how much it cost, and then we all went home and never thought about it again for 3 months because it was too much money. because we're not developers, we're builders. And it wasn't until we met some gentlemen, and a couple of them are right here in front of you, that said, hey, I know it doesn't make sense financially to build $40 million, but it brings so much value to communities that we can try to help it make sense. And we can build ancillary things around it that will also help it make sense. So that's how we've come to where we are tonight. The truth of the matter is we do need a little bit of help, and although it be at risk-free, it is still help to be able to build these facilities. And I don't want to ramble on about the benefits of this because I hope you guys can understand it, but when I think of Branson, I just flash back to my childhood, and I flash back to in the last 2 years of bringing my 3 children down here. And when we're in this day of age where every kid or every other kid that you see, even when they go to school these days, they don't have textbooks, they have iPads and they have computer screens. So they're overwhelmed with this tech, and it's right in their face. And here is Branson, where in my childhood, and then now I'm doing it with my kids, so somehow you guys have protected that for all these years. You come here, and it's an experience. You are watching shows, you're playing putt-putt, you're going to the golf carts, you're going to the lake, and you're on a pontoon boat. So, I don't know if you guys get to relive exactly what you are because you're right here in the vacuum of it, but all throughout the Midwest, the reason people are coming here is not because your food is the best. No offense, I think the food's great here, but they're coming here because it's different, and it's in a family experience. So when you look at Topgolf's numbers and you look at Chicken and Pickles numbers, and they're driving, I mean, we're going to drive anywhere between 500,000 and 750,000 visitors annually to this facility. Half of those are under 18 years old. And they're not getting dropped off by their parents. They're coming and they're playing with their parents. They're coming and playing with their grandparents. So your vote tonight is the yay or the nay on if this gets built in Branson in the next 14 to 15 months, an opening. And it's not just the people in your district. It's not you and your personal opinion. It's not just your district. It's not the community. But we're talking about if 50% of 500,000, let's call it 250,000, are 18 and younger over the next 10 years, that's 2.5 million children that'll be coming and doing something outside with their family and having an experience. So I could go on and on about this because I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about my family. There's a bunch of unique offerings that the Fieldhouse does that will just scream to you guys in the city of Branson as family. My youngest brother has Down syndrome. We'll be known throughout the country of working hand in hand with the Special Olympics and hiring any adult that has special needs. So I could start picking and choosing what I want to highlight, and I choose not to go through the presentation. I hope that I've done a good enough job of highlighting what we want to bring to the community, but it comes down to, Mayor, I mentioned this to you about a year and a half ago, I think it was a little over a year ago. We get asked to come to a lot of different communities and cities to bring this development. We have 11 of them active. I told the mayor, and I'll still cross my heart and swear on it, we want Branson to be the launching pad for the Fieldhouse, and we want people to know that this is where it started, because Branson equals family, Fieldhouse equals family. So thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jake. Any questions for Jake?
I don't have a question, but more of a comment.
Go ahead.
Great presentation, by the way. If there's anything, you talked about family experience, and, I'd have to say, like, over the last 3 years, if anything that across the country that I've seen is that people are reconnecting with that family experience. I mean, everybody got a little adrift. The adolescents were doing their thing, and the teenagers were doing their things, and the parents were doing their things. But then in all of the times that we went through, like, it almost like recentered us across the country, believe it or not. And I guess early 2000s, I was out in Rogers, Arkansas. I was working for a seminar company, and when they built that Top Golf out there, I watched them build that Top Golf several years ago in the middle of a cow pasture. And about 4 weeks ago, I went out there and visited my son, and you can't find a blade of grass there for all the businesses that have built up around it, and let alone you can't find a parking spot for all the people that are there. And I thought that was quite fascinating, and this was after knowing about this project, and it really, wow, like got my attention. So I've been pretty much like, wow, this is amazing, we need it, but then at the same time, I'm like, okay, what does our community want? And I'm in a I don't know if it's fortunate, but in a unique situation that I have a lot of business people that come into my office and things like that. And once we were able to kind of speak freely about this project that it was already public now, I just kind of started inquiring as I'm talking to people, and 20 or 30 people that have come to my office, I've kind of spoke about this and what impact they thought it would have on the community and how they felt about the incentives and things like that. And I really didn't get any pushback. But then you talked about, okay, so I represent a specific ward in this community. And so it's like, okay, I have an idea what I want, but what do the people that voted me in here want? And so over the holidays in November and through December, I'd venture out into the community, and I actually knocked on doors and kind of shared with them my vision of what you guys are doing, and also how I felt about it, and then what their opinion was about it. Dozen or so, people just amazed, wow, that's going to come here. So I kind of got a feel for it, and so, you know, tonight, when this vote comes down, it's not my vote. I really feel like I've listened to the community, because I've reached out into the community and actually spoke to them, and I've really digested the impact, you know, because it's almost like, you know, if you guys generate $3, we just got to give you back $1. It kind of works out that way, roughly. And, you know, I mean, in marketing, if you spend $1 on marketing, you hope to get back $2, you know, and, you know, have a little bit of increase. So I see it as a win-win for the community. I see it as a win-win for you guys. And the fact that it's based on performance, I think is, that was kind of the no-brainer part of it for me. I mean, you guys are willing to bet on that. I think you guys got pretty good confidence. I mean, I've seen Top Golf numbers. I've broke them down. I've seen our economic development program that we have on our website. Like, I didn't even know that existed. And because all this stuff's going on, it just kind of clued me in. I'm like, well, what was our city already saying about economic development? 35 pages on our website of all the things, incentives that are already in place, just hasn't been updated since 2017. I think it's incumbent, and we have some things coming up that we're going to update these things and do some more creative things. So I think it's an amazing project. I hope tonight you guys get the result that you need. I think it's a great project, so thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you. Kathy, you had something?
Yes, Mayor. Jake, would you mind, I think for the benefit of the folks that are sitting in the audience and for the people watching online, if you could flip through your slide presentation anyway. You don't have to go through the whole formality of it, but just for the visuals, I think are really important.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Down. On the clicker. There you go. You got
That was the hand signal. That means
that meant down. I
that
don't know
means
why.
down.
You know it. Yeah, there you go.
I didn't know Missouri that was down. This is up. I'd be happy to flip through some of our slides here and the renderings of it. You know, a very unique outdoor experience, combining multiple buildings. This goes a little bit through our vision, talking about the capital intensive part of it and construction.
Jake, would you hold right there?
Yes, sir.
That is showing $31 million coming from the developer, and that is debt and equity. How much of that 31 million is debt, and how much of that 31 million are the developers putting up in cash?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Grant.
That's okay. Developers' equity on this project is 11.
Speaking to the mic.
I'm sorry. Developers' equity on this project is $11.5 million. Traditional financing being 19.5, and then the balance of that $41 million project would be the sales tax and tourism revenue.
I just wanted to point out, because when I first looked at that, it appeared that all of that 31 million was a loan, and then understanding that you're actually putting up $11 million of your own money, it just makes a difference of how much you're into this, right?
Yes, sir.
So go ahead, thank you.
I think Rob touched on the risk factor and how the incentives are being built. No, that's fine. Go ahead. Is that the last slide there?
Yeah, this is the last slide. This is really just trying to help City of Branson understand what exactly is it that you guys are getting out of this deal. As Rob touched on it, absolutely no risk for the City of Branson. If we don't generate a dollar, you don't pay us back anything. But based on our projections and all of the data that Baker Tilly has underwritten, we can estimate over the 23-year analysis period that this project has the potential to generate over $250 million in net new economic impact to the City of Branson. I think that's very important to understand. And like I said, that number comes from people who are coming here, staying in hotels, going to restaurants, other entertainment options, convenience stores, et cetera. We know that based on the City of Branson's tourism data, that these families come, these new tourists come, and they stay for 4.1 nights or 4.1 days, and they spend $109 a day. You take that over 23 years, you're 5% net new. That's where we came up with that number. So it's based on City of Branson's tourism data.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, and the renderings, and I scrolled past them here, but the updated versions on the board here too are the actual Branson design per the site that we have, where this design that's on the screen shows the parking in a little bit of a different area. But one of the unique parts about this is the hitting bays, being in the Midwest, will have heaters above your head. The pickleball courts in indoor. So, driving through town today, we don't forecast a major dip in the winter months. So this is a year-round attraction, which we think is unique to the destination strip. So,
Hey, Jake.
yes, sir.
This rendering that we're seeing here of inside the actual field house, is that sort of a stationary, or is that what's going to be in there always, or could that be utilized for other functions or maybe even a basketball game or something like that?
Yeah, great question. The venue itself is certainly going to be adaptable to functions. And I don't know about basketball, just because there's other opportunities for basketball places. But what that is set up for is corporate events and letting hopefully out-of-town corporate people bring their event here. And also, if you're paying attention to the pickleball news in the pickleball world, professional pickleball at all levels is taking off. And so what that rendering of is the championship court, which is why you see the seating there. And we'll be driving events to Branson and hopefully getting on the circuit soon. But we got to build it first before we can promise anything like that. But
Thank you, Jake.
thank you.
Do you have anything else, guys? Okay. I would like to take a few minutes and share some of my thoughts. And then I'm going to ask the board to share their thoughts, and then we want to open it up to the public and get your thoughts. So this agenda item is very important for our community for many reasons. This bill passed on its first read on November 11th, which is just under 2 months ago. There's been many discussions and questions from stakeholders in our community. These developers have listened to our community's concerns since the first reading and have postponed the final reading and amended their request. Several had concerns about the Dizzy Immersive. The developers have talked with the city, they have talked with me, they have spoke directly with many stakeholders, and it was their choice to remove the Disney Immersive for that reason. The big question we have is, how do we feel about tax incentives? That's a big question. And that question is going to be answered tonight. We only need to look to some of our surrounding communities to answer that question if the city of Branson wants to offer tax incentives. Gene Bicknell has a development called American Heartland, $2 billion in Veneta, Oklahoma, which is a 2-hour and 20-minute drive from here, and it opens in 2026. I want to read just a couple paragraphs that have been printed about American Heartland project. At the crossroads of the Heartland, Oklahoma is an attractive location for family entertainment destination. Branson's also a family entertainment destination. The state's business-friendly approach and innovative partnership efforts have helped make this possible, American Heartland CEO Larry Wilhite said. We look forward to bringing unforgettable generational experiences to Oklahoma. The 125-acre Americana theme park, comparable in size to Magic Kingdom and Disneyland, is just part of a 1,000-acre development and will feature rides, live shows, family attractions, waterways, and restaurant-quality food and beverage offerings, the development company said. The state welcomes the venture, said Hooper Smith, interim director of the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. We are pleased that American Heartland Theme Park and Resort has taken the first step and chosen Oklahoma to build a world-class entertainment destination, Smith said. We are looking forward to assisting with this project as it develops. The second one is up at Lake of the Ozarks. It's a $300 million development. It opens this summer. It's 2 hours and 15-minute drive from Branson. It will have amusement rides, hotels, restaurants, amphitheater, marina, and a boardwalk. We also have the benefit of having a world-class theme park in our backyard, right? Silver Dollar City. Silver Dollar City grows every year, every couple years. They put in a new big something. In my opinion, I think Branson needs to grow to continue to keep up with those others in our neighborhood that are bringing quality family entertainment attractions to the Midwest. Missouri Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe said in his statement, I welcome this project, this is the Lake of the Ozarks, I welcome this project for its future impact on mid-Missouri's economy, as well as a commitment to bringing a centrally located, state-of-the-art entertainment district to the Osage Beach community. So, I have spoken with several stakeholders and attempted to address some of their specific concerns about the Topgolf project. The vast majority of stakeholders that have talked to me are very, very much in support of this. There are some stakeholders that had some questions, and I want to address a few of those. One stakeholder asked about the accuracy of the feasibility studies that the city has relied on in the past. Fair question. I will say that we know America's Heartland and Lake of the Ozarks, they relied on their feasibility studies. The feasibility study that these developers had was with a firm called the Sports Facilities Company. I will tell you, Joe Lauber, our law firm, Baker Tilly, national company, They both have had experiences with this particular feasibility study company and give them rave reviews. They really respect the quality of work done by this feasibility study. Another stakeholder asked about using tax incentives for a competing business. That is another fair question. That must be addressed when we consider any project that is requesting to use tax dollars. In this example, we don't have a Topgolf type of development in Branson. They also are offering pickleball and putting. In the feasibility study, they're projecting 87% of their revenues on this development comes from golf, food and beverage, and retail. 13% of the anticipated revenues comes from pickleball and putting. Another stakeholder asked, if we keep providing tax incentives, will the city go broke? According to the feasibility study, Topgolf development generates new taxes for our community, and it will create an additional 30,000 annual room nights. Chad, would you put up the chart about the tax generation from this project, please? I'll go back to Jake's comment. I'm an old fart, so we need it blown up. Yeah, could you pull this part up here. Scroll over, please. Oh. Just a little bit smaller, please. Okay, this shows, this is the tax incentive to the developer. So is the city gonna go broke if we keep providing tax incentives? This represents, where's my chart? Total city tourism tax. Not the city tourism tax that's being reimbursed. This is city tourism tax that helps our water, sewer, streets for our entire community. Let's also keep in mind where this development is, years ago was in a TIF district. The city invested millions and millions of dollars on a 5-lane paved road, all the utilities through Gretna, right? That is just city services in place, underutilized. Then this shows the city transportation tax, city public safety tax, and oh, that's for police and that one's for fire. So I just wanted a visual of how much is the developer getting and how much is the city getting. The city is clearly generating revenues from this project. The city also benefits, according to the feasibility study, we get 30,000 annual room nights. Who benefits from 30,000 annual room nights? Everybody, right? Lodging benefits directly, but our theaters, attractions, museums, restaurants, retail, they will all generate revenues. They generate city sales tax. They also generate tourism tax for the city. And out of that tourism tax, I'm going to suggest to you the major importance of that is the 75% that goes back to our roads, water, and sewer. As you know, our city is investing heavily in our residential neighborhoods. We're replacing water lines and repaving streets. We can only continue to do that if the tourism tax portion continues to come into the city. I view this Topgolf type of development similar to the popular aquarium project that has also been funded with tax incentives. Without the tax incentives, the aquarium would not have been built, and neither will this development. The tax incentives for each of these two developments, the aquarium and Topgolf, there are similarities. They're both 23 years in length. Both of them are getting about a 25% potential reimbursement versus 75 and 100% reimbursements that I've seen from other projects that have asked for tax incentives. So bringing in additional visitors benefits all Branson businesses. I will not look you in the eyes and say, in my opinion only, do I think Topgolf will drive brand-new business to Branson. What I will tell you is Topgolf, no different than the aquarium, will be another reason people come to Branson. Both these projects are open year-round, the aquarium and the Topgolf. Extend.
Mammoth Fieldhouse,
What did I say?
Topgolf. It's Mammoth Fieldhouse.
The name of the project is Mammoth Fieldhouse. What they're building is a Topgolf development. So when I use the word Topgolf, that's what we're,
Problem with Topgolf as a brand is
okay, a Topgolf type development. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Other stakeholders have stated, we built our businesses without tax incentives. Why do we offer tax incentives to outsiders? I feel that. I have been a business owner in this town for 30 years. I've interacted with many, many business owners. Providing a tax incentive for somebody else to come in and bring in a business just doesn't taste right. When I have invested my own money, have mortgaged my properties to build up my own personal business. That is a common feeling, and I've heard that one statement more than any others. And I agree with that feeling. First of all, this developer has been an owner and a business owner for 20 years. I want to remind everybody that our city is very interested in assisting our existing tourism businesses. We all know that that our businesses have built their business by pulling up their bootstraps and did not request any tax incentives. We have 2 meetings scheduled for this month of January and a 3rd meeting scheduled next month in February. These will be open meetings, and we'll be discussing options for our community and asking the community to help us make decisions on what tax incentives should we provide our existing businesses. This board is excited to have these conversations and come up with a plan. Joe Lauber is going to be providing us with a lot of direction, number one, to make sure we don't go broke. But in some of the early discussions we've had, there are ways, I believe there are ways where we can offer, if an existing business wants to expand, wants to open up a new location, I believe there's incentives that this city can offer that would be very prudent to do for our existing business owners, and I'm anxious to have those conversations. We're at a crossroads right now. Voting no on this will send a clear message to developers. Branson is not interested in assisting new developments that are thinking of Branson. They'd be better off talking to Veneta, Oklahoma, or Lake of the Ozarks. In fact, I'll tell you, and I've said this once before publicly, we have a neighboring community that has said, if we decline this proposal, they will ask this development to go to their city with tax incentives. I'm looking at Branson's future 5, 10, 20 years down the road. Without competing with tax incentives, knowing many other localities, many other municipalities are offering tax incentives to increase their tourism. I've shared two of the big ones, just 2 hours from Branson. If we're not growing, we're dying. And in my strong opinion, I believe that this development, these guys presented this to me and Kathy over a year ago. They have been working they have spent, I don't know how many, tens and tens of thousands of dollars to get it to this point. Again, the majority of communication I've had with the community has been very positive. I've shared with you some of the stakeholders that have shared some concerns. So at this time, I'm going to ask the aldermen to share their opinions, and then I want to open it up and listen to what you have to say. Any aldermen?
I'll just add to what I said earlier. You know, we do have existing businesses that, you know, have called to question some of the things. And I would say this, that, you know, just like if to a business, new customers are the lifeblood, to a city, new business is the lifeblood. But what beats the heart are the existing businesses that are already here. And in my observation, this is something that I think is going to enhance Branson. I think it's going to enhance the businesses in Branson. If they can attract additional tourism, you know, one of the things that the aldermen, you know, life safety issues, quality of life and public safety, and I think increasing tax base and also increasing tourism is part of our job, and we have to look at projects that can do that kinds of things, and I think this is a project that can definitely make that happen. So, you know, I don't look at Mammoth Fieldhouse as the new shiny object. To me, the shiny objects are the businesses that are already here. They've earned the right to be here. You know, Rob's been here 20 years. He's earned the right to be here. Mammoth Fieldhouse is going to earn their salt. Once they build this project, they have to earn the business. And, you know, they have a daunting task ahead of them. And, you know, I believe that this is something that just makes that jump into that arena just a little less difficult.
Thank you, Ralph. Any other aldermen?
Sure, I have something to say. For those people who know me, you know that I research and drive my own self crazy with my own research, so I don't take my vote tonight lightly. When this was first presented, great presentation, but we also pride ourselves in faith, family, flag, and I want to be, my convictions tell me that the Disney project and faith, family, flag were on two opposite ends of the spectrum. And that's when I did ask if they could be separated. Is something I threw out there. I'm very glad that this is coming before us tonight, separated like that. Thank you for all the hard work that you've put into it. I, like Ralph, we're in Ward 3. We have a very active ward. We call them, we talk to them, we try to have public meetings with them. So I did speak to business owners, I did speak to residents, and I do have friends, a lot of friends that drive to Springfield to go play pickleball, and they're excited for any type of pickleball fields, or I haven't played, so I'm sorry if I'm not using the right terminology. But they are so happy that that's going to be available here. So I just want to thank you for your presentation, and I look forward to it. My platform has always been to, if we are not growing, we are dying. And I just want to see Branson move in the direction that we say we're going to move in, and this is definitely doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruth. Any other aldermen? Clay?
Well, first of all, I disagree with all due respect about the mayor saying that a no vote sends a clear message. I think it just sends a message that we want development, but we may not incentivize you. And I've had quite the opposite as what Ralph said. I didn't go out and knock on doors and visit with people, but I had 10 to 12 business owners in town contact me and thanking me for my no vote on the first read of this. So, I mean, I'm definitely 100%, everything you said is correct. We do need to grow, and I'm 100% in favor of development and growth. I'm not totally against incentivizing, but I'm not in favor of picking and choosing who we incentivize. You know what I mean? I like, if somebody comes up here next week with a $5 million project, are we going to go, well, it's only $5 million. We only want to incentivize the ones that have the big charts and the $40 million investment. So, yeah, I'll be a no vote on this.
Thank you. Any other aldermen? Now I'd like to hear from the community. You've heard from the board and our opinions, you heard the presentation. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to come up and share some words of wisdom with your board?
Waiting for someone else.
You're good.
Mayor, board, first of all, thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, just state your name.
Sure, my name is Trey Pels, and I'm one of the owners with the Social Birdie Project here in Branson. First of all, I agree with you guys. Development is good for Branson. I also agree that a golf and pickleball attraction would be very good for Branson. And that's why myself and my business partners broke ground over a year and a half ago on the golf and pickleball attraction called the Social Birdie. Just to give you a little backstory, kind of where this came up from, we decided as a group of partners that this town, which we love, we're all 4 local business owners that live in Branson. Our kids go to Branson schools. We pay taxes in Branson. We've helped elect you guys. We're all very active in the Branson community. Myself and my partners decided that we wanted to build something in Branson that would be around for a long time for our grandkids to enjoy, something that we thought was maybe a gap in the tourism for Branson. So our first stop was maybe instead of building something from the ground up, the thought was maybe we should lease an existing building and maybe retrofit it. So I met with Grant from Fieldcrest Properties back in early 2021 to talk about putting the Social Birdie over in the Branson Mills Mall. After doing some research and working with our architects, we discovered that that was not the best situation for us. We needed more room. We needed room for pickleball courts. We needed room for our putt-putt. We needed room for things like that. And so we decided to take the risk and do it on our own. And so I agree, a golf and pickleball attraction would be great for Branson, and that's why we're opening in roughly 90 days. To me, as a business owner, it is a huge slap in the face if this gets voted for tonight, that you guys are slapping the face of small business owners in Branson, that you're incentivizing competition that is essentially taking our business model and doing something very, very similar, and we're gonna incentivize them at the detriment to myself and my partners. We put every ounce of money that we've got in our project. We're not big developers. We're not super savvy to come to a city and ask for a government handout or anything, but what we did do is mortgage our homes, put our life savings into this project. And in my opinion, if you guys vote in favor of this, you're digging our own grave with our family, and you're showing us the door, in my opinion. And I don't think that's your heart. I honestly have had some conversations with you guys, and I know deep down inside, there's a lot of good in you guys, and you see the truth. Outside development, or development is not a bad thing at all. That's why we chose to invest in Branson, and we did it as the way you mentioned. We pulled up our bootstraps, and we raised money on our own, and we're doing this on our own. And so I ask you guys to really consider your stance on this, consider who you're hurting on this. In my opinion, if they want to build, this is a free enterprise economy. It is great. Clay, I'm sorry, but I could build a Clay Cooper Express right across the street from you tomorrow, and that's just part of it. They could build this thing, and that's fine. But to incentivize them and to give them essentially a $10 million incentive at the detriment to us, I don't think is right, and I honestly don't think it's fair. The people I've spoke to which are, a lot of people are in very much agreement with this. I don't think it screams the right message for the city, because this message that it says to me is that you guys only care about the big outside developers. You don't care about the local small business owners. To me, that's what drives America. My final thought is this: it's not up to the board to decide winners and losers. If you guys vote yes to this, you guys are picking winners and losers. And unfortunately, the local guys here are the losers in this. So we would ask for you guys to support us.
Trey, before you leave, if you don't mind, you and I have had discussions on this.
Yes.
And what I've shared is I've been in your shoes. I've mortgaged everything I had to open businesses. According to the study, the main driver of this Mammoth project is Topgolf. In my opinion, I shared with you on the phone, in my opinion, somebody who's going to play at a Topgolf is not the same person that's going to play at a simulation machine. That's my opinion. 97% of their 87% of their revenues comes from Topgolf. 13% of their revenues anticipated comes from the pickleball and the putting course. The city doesn't have a Topgolf. We didn't have an aquarium. I know the position you're in. I feel the position you're in. My personal opinion is this is not, Trey has a business, and the city is picking a winner and loser by saying we're going to financially support a similar business and choose not to support Social Birdie. I also know you've had conversations with Kathy Stepp, our city administrator. Kathy Stepp made it very clear. This month, we're starting meetings of how we can help incentivize our local existing businesses. She's made it clear that she would like to see us go through that process, for us to come up with common rules for everybody, which would include your development. Right?
Right. Could I respond to that, if you don't
bet.
mind, sir? There was a lot of assumptions made about their revenue and where it's coming from. One, same thing with us. Neither one of us are open yet, so we don't know for sure where that's coming from.
Right.
So I'm not sure it's your job or anyone's job necessarily to try to come up with the assumptions on what that is and isn't. The simulator business for us is not the mainstay of our business model. The pickleball courts and the putting course is, which is what they're replicating. And that's the part that hurts us the most, because that's where we're doubling down on our business on. Our future plan was to purchase the property behind us and possibly expand into a Topgolf, but we wanted to try to open up for 6 months, get some healthy books, then maybe go back to the bank. And so obviously that plan is not going to happen now, because we're not going to do 2 of those things. But again, our model is not just based around the golf simulator. Our model is built around, the putting course and the pickleball courts equally. And a lot of our revenue is going to come from that. So not just 13%, 17%, it's a majority. So it is competing for that directly.
Okay, thank you, Trey.
Good evening, Mr. Alderman and Mayor. It's been a long time since I've been here to speak. And
Name for the record,
Chris
please.
Meyer. I office at 269 State Highway 248.
We don't need addresses anymore.
Okay, well, I guess that's how long it's been since I've spoke. Years ago, I was here, and we had another project in town that wanted tax dollars, and I personally fought that vehemently, and that failed. I have no problem with this project, but I just have some questions, and I just want y'all to think about some things. And I sat the first time, the night you guys had the first public hearing on this, I actually watched it from home. And when I got done, I said, I don't understand why they need the $10 million. There was no discussion of why this needs to be funded. And I didn't hear that again tonight, really in detail. Maybe you guys have that, but I don't know why they need the money. And it actually concerns me if a private business has to come to you and ask for money, is it a fundamentally not sound project? And are they on that thin of ice? And if their projections are off and you give them money and they're on that thin of ice, then do they fail easily or quicker because they're relying on your money? And so I think that to me is a bigger question of the fundamentals. Today, and as I was sitting out there, I was kind of concerned because in just our tone, and I counted before I came up here, in the area, we already have over 50 attractions. So we have tons of stuff. This is one of the smallest towns in America with the most stuff to do. And so for us to sit here and kind of say we're dying, we are more blessed than anywhere in the country, in my opinion, when it comes to shows and attractions for such a small town. I don't know any other town in the country that exists that has this much stuff. So when we sit here and say we got to have this other attraction, otherwise we're going to die, I think that's not. It just concerns me that we have that thought process because, to me, Branson is still really a hidden secret to most of the country. If you go to the East and West Coast, a lot of those people still don't even know who we are. Yep. So I think we have to be really careful how we position Branson in these kind of meetings when we already have 50 awesome attractions, probably more than that. And so I just look at these type of projects as another spoke on the wheel, okay? It's not gonna make us, it's not gonna break us. It's just a spoke on the wheel with all the other stuff that we have here. And we're saying Topgolf. I understand that this is not Topgolf, but you also have to understand that today Topgolf is a recognized name and they're all over the area. And they're in every major market that we draw people to, okay? So if they're in St. Louis, they can go to Topgolf there. They can go to it in Northwest Arkansas. They can go to it in Oklahoma City. So the experience of Topgolf, they can get in their own town. Now, could it mean that they like it and they want to come here? But I think if you're sitting there saying, if we just build this, we're going to all of a sudden have all these people just come to town for this, I think I don't know if I would say that myself. And so they have this study that says 30,000 annual room nights. So if that in fact is true, then you guys should write that into the contract that says that the hotel industry needs to see at least a $3 million increase in revenues plus inflation for that to be justified, okay? Because the other thing that you have the potential is to cannibalize existing attraction businesses, okay? Because there's only so many people that are gonna come and they're only gonna do so many things in a day or a week or whatever. And Clay could tell you this, if there's 50 shows, he has a better chance of getting them than if there's 100 shows, right, Clay? So the more attractions you have, the more that you're cannibalize existing businesses unless you grow the pot. If you don't grow the pot, you're gonna just shift money around. And so, so part of this is I think you need to make the incentive based on, if they've got the study, then put it in writing that they gotta generate increased revenue in hotels above inflation. Does that make sense to y'all? So if inflation's going up 5%, you can't count that 5%. You gotta go above that. So tie that in, and then I think the other thing that concerns me in all this is we're gonna give them tax dollars back. And I don't know if that's all of the tourism tax, or if that's some of the sales tax, or I don't know if it's 5.5%, so could you
Yeah, it's
answer
1% of the city sale tax, and it's 25% of the tourism tax.
Okay, so is that the marketing portion of it?
Yes,
Okay, so,
because the other 75% goes to our continued Rosewater sewer.
okay, so here's what I would say, is take the 25% out of the roads, water, and sewer and keep the marketing tax in there, because if this cannibalizes other businesses, you need those marketing dollars to go out and get new people to help. So if you guys think it's a winner, you take it out of the road bridge fund and keep the whole marketing there so we can keep marketing, because it's really not fair that they don't pay marketing dollars, because they need to pay it like everybody else. I mean, we talk about being fair, they need to pay their fair share to market. Otherwise, they're getting the benefit of the marketing without really paying for it. So
Where were you when the aquarium came up?
I was tired from the one
The
previous.
just so you know, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, I believe the aquarium was approved with 100% of the tourism tax dollars. That's the 25% for marketing and the roads and water. So we need to continue having roads, water, sewer, primarily for, I mean, not only our commercial streets, but for our neighborhoods.
So I just say, I'm just telling you my opinion,
That's
right?
okay. Yeah.
And so I'm giving you guys all something to think about, but once again, there is the possibility to cannibalize existing attractions, and so you should take it and put it into marketing, and if you believe enough in the project, then you're gonna get your tax revenues back anyway.
Okay, so
on
what
it.
I'm hearing
So-
you say is, and it's fair, you're questioning the accuracy of the feasibility study. Is that fair?
Yes, to a certain degree, yes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been a commercial broker all my life. I've seen feasibility studies. The vast majority they overestimate impacts. I agree with that. It was comforting for me to hear from Baker Tilly and from Lauber that this particular firm, they're not perfect. Nobody has a crystal ball, but out of all the feasibility study companies out there, they rank these guys pretty high.
that,
I'm not saying their numbers are accurate. I'm not saying they're right. The one chart we showed, that chart, shows if we don't have one additional room night, not one, it makes sense to do it. I'm just saying in addition to that chart, feasibility study says 30,000. What if it's 10,000 nights? What if it's 20? No matter what that is, it makes sense as a standalone. It makes even more sense by increasing all the other businesses.
there was something I was gonna say, and I think I lost it. I'm not here to debate the quality of the project. I
appreciate your input.
And
Yeah.
I believe in the free hand of the marketplace for being conservatives. I don't like corporate welfare, and I don't like taxes for most part, you know. I think most of you know that about me. Anyway, I just wanted to share those things, and I think there's a few things that you can tweak. And here's the other thing I would say too, is give the same deal to Trey that you're giving these guys, and then it's fair. So that's just the last comment. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Chris, I'm going to count on you to attend our meetings when we're talking about what to create for the community. Do you agree to come to some of those, Chris? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for letting me come up and speak tonight. My name is Matt Martin. I'm not a resident of Branson, am of Taney County. I'm actually one of the equity investors in the Social Birdie Project. I've owned some businesses in the past. I'm an employee, really, by trade. I'm in the pharmaceutical business, and I travel for work. And I moved here because my wife made me, honestly, 3 years ago during COVID. She grew up outside of Clinton, Arkansas. I had never been to Branson before that. We moved from Houston, Texas. I drove by a Topgolf, legitimately a Topgolf, every day on my way to the office when I was going to the office, and love it. I'm a golfer myself. And so, you know, just a couple of comments. I think it's very easy in these situations to step up and you get so enamored with what you want to say, you fail to listen with what's going on, right? And I think that's very important. I negotiate contracts as part of what I do for a business. And I think it's important. I know I can take numbers that I have and I can twist them and make every single one of those numbers speak on my behalf to get my customer to sign a contract, right? That's easily done when you're talking about mythical things. I didn't invest in this project because I had some crazy understanding of how much money it was going to generate myself or my family. Honestly, I invested in it because of Trey and because of a previous business that Trey ran, my cousin, who lives here and has lived here for 15 years, invested in Trey and told me that he trusted him, and so that's why I ultimately did it. I'm going to be honest with you, too. I did not invest in this project because of tourism. I live here. My kids go to school here. Let me rephrase that. I was about to say I don't have a problem with tourism. I kind of do. It's hard, right? We all live here. When the tourists are here in the summer, it can be a pain in the rear to go and do the things that we want to do. Another reason I invested in this project was because I wanted our specific project to be more locally oriented, right? So, Mr. Ralph, to your comment, most of the people that I speak to when they talk about small businesses in this area, they're tired of businesses opening to pander to the tourists. They want something for the local community to go to. So there's definitely a difference, I think, in what you gentlemen are trying to do. I'm all for free enterprise. Trust me, if I wasn't involved in this project, I'd be so excited about this because I love golf and the putting course excites me and the sports aspect of it does. I moved here from a large community, so I see that. In the comment to the aquarium and the growth of what a Topgolf type business would bring to this area, again, I would probably, Mr. Myers, I'd probably align more with him. It's not just St. Louis and Kansas City and Oklahoma City. Springfield has a Big Shots, which is the exact same, not the exact same concept, right? But pretty dadgum close, right? There's no holes in the ground that take your ball. You're playing simulating golf and you're hitting it out into a driving range, which is really what we're talking about. So at the end of the day, excited for this. This is my first, we call them city council in Texas. I didn't know what an alderman was until I moved here, right? So I was like, hey, cool, what's an alderman? I learned what it is, and it's just different from state to state. I have fallen in love with living in Branson. I hate cold weather. Today is miserable to me. Ask Trey. It's been the hardest part about adapting to this. The people have made it easy. The community, our church that we're involved in, the businesses, people like this that want to invest in this area, that's great. I want new development. I think what I want for our project and for myself and my family who live here and who are going to continue to live here is, to Trey's point, a level playing field, right? And as I listened, Mayor, to some of the things that you said, right, this is something that's going to bring people to Branson, continue to bring people to Branson, right? Some of the comments that you made. I'm not accusing anyone, I'm not accusing you, Mayor, or the board of picking sides, but man, it kind of irks me a little bit that we've been under development for 2 years and I don't know any of you. That's probably just as much my fault as it is everyone else's, but where was the board when Social Birdie came up and said, we want to do this? And where was the board to back us up and say, hey, this is a cool new concept that has pickleball and simulated golf and a putting course and food and beverage? Where was the city to come in behind us and say, hey, maybe we can do something to incentivize you, come alongside you and work with you to build something that would help the community as a whole, right? To bring people here, to keep people coming here. I think that's what we want, right? To Mr. Myers' comment, to keep people coming to Branson. So again, thanks for the time. I think the last comment I would say too is, I'm 42 years old. When I moved here from Texas, I made my family mad because I'm born and raised Texan. My family still lives there. My dad questioned why I moved to Branson. And he asked me, he goes, what industry does Branson thrive on? And I said, well, it's a tourist town, Dad, right? I mean, yeah, they've got a college, but it's a tourist town. And he was you need to be careful of that. And my comment back to the board and to the city is, my encouragement would be, let's also look at other opportunities, right? Other businesses that want to come here that might not be tourist oriented, but that would bring development, bring growth, bring jobs, bring people to the community that want to live here, not just invest here, but that want to live here like we do, because I want to see it grow and be sustained, because this is now the place that we call home. So thank you all for the time.
Yeah, hold on, Matt.
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking, how much y'all invested in your project? What are you all in for?
It's 4.2 million roughly. And yeah, it is not, I actually had that down and Trey touched on it. I didn't want to hit it, but yeah, we don't have I don't have $11.5 million. I don't even have a quarter of $11.5 million or 20% of $11.5 million, which is what my equity stake is in Social Birdie. But I can tell you that, I mean, the bank wants a lot, right? And so I collateralized my home and everything else. I mean, I put a lot of my savings, and I've been very blessed in my career to have some savings and to have made some, decisions on real estate over time, to have some funds to be able to inject into this business. And so to us, Clay, or Mr. Cooper, it's a lot of money, right? For each individual person that's involved in Social Birdie, it's a lot of money.
Well, that's kind of my point. I mean, whether it's 4 million or 40 million, they're both important.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely sympathize, Mr. Mayor, understood in your background. I didn't know until tonight, so sympathize how you came up and how Mr. Cooper has built his business, or anybody in this town has built their business, right? I'm really not against tax incentives. I mean, I lived and worked in the Woodlands, Texas. I mean, the Woodlands gave ExxonMobil like free land to build their global campus there. I understand how that works. Okay, I come from the land of Buc-ee's. I don't know what exactly happened in Springfield with Buc-ee's, but I bet they probably got a tax incentive to build up off of 44 when all that happened. So I'm not some, crazy, naive person to think that these things don't exist. I just think we need to, I would appreciate living in a community where the city and the community make things a level playing field, and they don't prioritize other projects over, others. And they back ones that all have the same purpose, no matter how big or small. The purpose is to grow and sustain the community.
Matt, I'd really appreciate you attend these meetings we're going to have to set up the guardrails of what we can do for existing businesses.
Absolutely. Look forward to being there. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, members of the board,
I'm sorry, sir, you must state your name for the record.
Jonas Argis, Taney County Partnership. First of all, I just want to comment and commend you and thank you for taking on this touchy, difficult subject, right? So to say that this city, this community has a history with incentives, I think Chris mentioned a couple, would be an understatement of the evening. We've seen good ones, we've seen bad ones, we've seen a lot of drama in this room in years past. Probably a couple of the most uncomfortable weeks of my career to date was during the TIF prior to the aquarium TIF. So I understand all that, and I again, just kudos to you for taking on the consideration of looking at this. For us, this project ticks a lot of the boxes, right? You got sports infrastructure investment. You've got shoulder season business, extending the season over to a 12-month period, capital investment. And I'm not here to compare one project over another. And to say one deserves one deserves nothing. That's not the case. We're in favor of all economic development because we believe that economic development spurs more economic development. And the mayor, you touched on it. You look at the millions of dollars of infrastructure that is in and on top of the ground along Gretna that was put there years ago. To be able to get a return on that investment now with a significant scaled project like we're talking about here with Mammoth Fieldhouse, that's what we need to be considering, right? Those are the exactly types of projects we're considering. For those that have, a negative connotation or opinion about incentives, let's remind you, Branson Landing, built on incentives. Branson Hills, built on incentives, right? The road and the infrastructure that goes up Branson Hills Parkway, built on incentives. We currently have a 1 cent CID tax on the corridor, the 76 corridor. That is an additional self-imposed 1 cent sales tax, which is an incentive to help pay for infrastructure, road improvements, pedestrian safety improvements, and aesthetic improvements that every business along that corridor is going to benefit from when all that happens. So, to try to silo this, I get it, but I think to have a broader discussion, I'm looking forward to, to the conversations that we're going to have about what we can do to update the city's incentives policies, right? So I thought it was before 2017, but it may have been as late as 2017. But that incentive policy that's been on the books is very similar to the incentive policies that's on the books at the city of Hollister. Very similar, if not word for word, to the same incentive policy that's on the books at the city of Forsyth. The reason I know that is because we borrowed that language from a woman named Mary Lily Smith, who at the time was the Director of Economic Development for the city of Springfield. So those policies and those tools have been in place and been here. And, I've heard the comments about, we didn't know, or how are we supposed to know that they're there? Well, that's, you know what? I guess shame on us for not being more proactive as a community to say that we have these tools. We had a previous board vote to say that here are all the tools that we could and may consider for a project like Mammoth, like Trey's, or like anybody else's that has come to this community. And I'm of the opinion it's because, I work in this day to day, to stand on, so-called moral and ethical ground that we're anti-incentives, well, all the communities that aren't are going to eat our lunch. And I'm not saying that we have to incentivize everything, but I think if you look at the direct, indirect, and induced economic impact of some of these projects that will and have come before us, right? The big water park project that got killed, that was huge. Who knows what might have happened? Now there's more development happening out there. Is it going to be the same? We don't know, right? What I will commend the Cavera partners, what they learned from that process and was able to fine tune and, show their research and what their research showed them about. I mean, I don't think anybody was on the board then, but they told us they weren't looking to do an aquarium, right? And that's where the research and everything took them to. That's what they should do with the opportunity they have with the property they own and the capital they were willing to invest. So I just want to say that we're for all projects, right? And I think if we go forward and look at ways, and was happy to sit in on that meeting yesterday with Kathy and Alex and Trey, I think there's opportunities there. I think again, we need to keep looking at these and seizing these opportunities of folks that are willing to invest millions and tens of millions to do this. Not only just local folks, but folks that may not be local. Because at the end of the day, we thrive on visitation, and we thrive on people coming here, spending their money, staying, coming back more often. And if this convinces, or if this is part of the equation that has that family decide that they're going to take their first trip to Branson, or if they're going to stay an extra day because there's more things in that wheel that Chris talked about to do, then that's what we need, right? We need to increase those visitation nights and days, and get them to stay longer and spend more money. And I think this project checks a lot of those boxes. So appreciate your time, and again, thank you for taking this on.
I'm not sure if anybody up here said they were anti-incentives. I didn't hear that.
And I wasn't directing that to the Board of Aldermen. I'm saying the public in general. There is sentiment out there that people don't like corporate welfare, government handout, whatever tag you want to put it. But at the end of the day, we've had an incentive policy at this city for years that has all those tools in it, including a developer agreement.
And I don't know if my opinion is I wouldn't be bragging about the Branson landing deal.
Well,
I don't know how well that was negotiated. It's a deal,
it was built on incentives.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I wouldn't say it was a
Let's
good
move
deal.
That was before my time, but
Well, mine too.
Let's move on.
Well, no, I'm just
No,
being honest.
I'm agreeing with
I
you.
wouldn't say, oh, hey, look what we did down there.
No, that was not highlighting
He did
successes.
say
It
we
was-
have good ones
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
bad ones.
And again, I'm not against incentivizing. If this was an Amazon warehouse and they were going to build something and employ 700 people 12 months a year, I'd be the first to vote yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Jonas. Any other comments from the audience? Before we vote, any other comments from the board?
Mr. Mayor, yeah. So Trey and Matt, to your point, Trey, I've been supporting your small business from the day it opened. And I will continue to do that. I've referred a lot of people to your small business because that's what small business owners do with other small business owners. I've never met you before. Just for the record, I've never met these guys either. On purpose. Didn't want their input. I wanted to make a decision based on what my constituents said, the research that I did, and things like that. I don't see this as us signing your death sentence. I think that is completely, grotesquely overblown. I'm going to support your other small business because that's what small business owners do. My family will, my friends will, because that's what we do in this community. I'm going to support their business. I support businesses here because I do business here. And that's how this community continues. 26 years ago, I came to this community thinking I was just going to be here a year and go to Kansas City or St. Louis or some other big city. But it bites you, and it bites you from the perspective of what a great place for my family to live and grow. 5 kids, 7 grandkids later, still here, not going anywhere. I will continue to support your business. I'll continue to inspire people to support your businesses, all of them.
Kathy?
Thank you, Mayor. To the Board of Aldermen, I just want to reinforce my commitment to all of you on making sure that we are creating a level playing field for businesses of all shapes and sizes. Coming to Branson, we welcome new businesses as well as the expanding and improvement of existing businesses. And Trey, you know, we had a very good, I felt like we had a really good visit yesterday that was very productive. And I have given you my personal and professional pledge to sit down and work with you starting tomorrow. I think we have a meeting already scheduled to start having those conversations on how do we set something up for existing businesses like yours and others going forward. And that's in the best interest of all of Branson, and I look forward to alderman participation in those conversations as well as the public's participation. All ideas are welcome, so please bring all different ideas that you've maybe heard or seen in other communities around the country, or maybe your very own idea that you think has merit. We're going to have a really fantastic, forward-moving, momentum, dynamic conversation with this community about how do we beautify, expand, modernize, while still keeping our tradition and our heritage front and center. So you have my personal and professional commitment. We're going to have those conversations with Trey about his business and what we can bring before you, and we're going to really get the ball rolling when it comes to the other ideas regarding growing Branson's existing. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kathy. So hearing no other comments, Hillary, I know I'm supposed to take a voice vote. Would you mind doing a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Howden?
Yes.
Cooper?
No.
Denham?
Yes.
Fenton?
Abstain.
Okay, so the result of the vote is 4 yeses, 1 no, 1 abstention. The no being Alderman Cooper and the abstention Alderman Fenton.
Thank you. I want to thank the community. I know we've taken a couple months to discuss this. We were very open to listening to the community. I think collectively we make better decisions. There's signals going on. I'm getting ready to take a potty break. Is it something before or after a potty break, Kathy? Oh. Oh, yeah, that part.
Your Honor, I move to read Bill number 6401 for its final reading due to time.
We have motion and a second. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this matter? Any aldermen? I'm going to ask for a vote, and the vote is to have a second read. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Okay. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Rodriguez, Howden,
Yes.
Cooper,
No.
Denham,
Yes.
Fenton.
Abstain.
The result of the vote is 4-0, 1 no, 1 abstention, the no being Alderman Cooper and the abstention being Alderman Fenton.
So, Madam Clerk, would you please provide the introduction for this item?
Your Honor, this is the final reading of Bill number 6401, an ordinance to authorize the mayor to execute a contract for economic development project and use of the city's sales tax revenue and tourism tax revenue for such project.
You've heard the final reading of Bill 6401. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, and a third. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak regarding this matter? Any alderman? Madam Clerk, would you please provide a roll call vote?
LeBlanc,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Howden,
Yes.
Cooper,
Still no.
Denham,
Yes.
Fenton.
Abstain.
The result of the vote is 4 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention, the no being Alderman Cooper and the abstention being Alderman Fenton. Motion carries.
I appreciate the developers. I appreciate Lauber and Associates. I appreciate Baker Tilly Assistants, our city administration, all the work that's gone into this. And at this time, I'm going to ask for a 10-minute recess. Thank you. I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Madam Clerk, I think we're on item number 7.
Your Honor, this is a first reading of Bill Number 6402, an ordinance amending Chapter 22 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to contractor licensing.
For the first reading of Bill Number 6402, do I have a motion approving this bill?
Second.
A motion is second. Get a staff report from Mark. Hello, Mark.
Good evening, Your Honor, and Madam and gentlemen of the board. Thank you for having me, and I've also brought with me Austin Phillips. I'll let him introduce himself, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm Austin Phillips with the Building Division for Planning and Development.
Chad, you got the PowerPoint? Yeah. Thanks. So one thing I really have an opportunity to speak on, I probably wouldn't if it wasn't today, is we got to hear a lot on all the different tourists, for example, that come to the city. And regardless of how you look at that, there surely is quite a number of people that are coming to the city. But what I loved about the conversation we just heard was you also got to hear about the residents that are in this great city and all the great things there are for not only residents but also the tourists. So anytime you think about that, you obviously have to make sure that whatever facilities people are going to, all the fun things there are to do, all the extracurricular activities, they're most fundamentally they're safe structures to enter and be within. So today we have an opportunity to take a look at how we can amend Chapter 22 of the code, specifically dealing with contractor licensing. And to be clear, currently the city does have some requirements for contractor licensing. However, we understand it's really important when we think about the children, for example, that are going in. I even think about my own children when I moved here and taking them to the facility. You want to make sure that if they're going to go to the bathroom, they're not scalding their hands on hot water. Or, for example, they're going to go into a building and it's not going to burn down because poor electrical installations. And it's something that we want to make sure and we ensure to the public that our facilities are safe and great places to be. They want to be focused on the experience and how great it is and not be worried looking behind themselves and making sure that it's not some safe place to be. So we really pride ourselves on trying to take a deep dive into looking at all the ways we can make and ensure this to happen. So where we started with this, and particularly looking at contractor licensing, this is something that has been discussed for a number of years. However, one thing that's pretty clear, and the main incentive here when we look at this, and why we started looking at this, is it's really not very complicated, for example, and there's not a lot of steps in regards to how you actually file to become a licensed contractor within the city, because anything that gets constructed, obviously you have to have a contractor doing that. So we believe we owe it to not only our residents but our visitors to this great city that contractors are held to a higher standard, and in particular looking at the mechanicals, the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC to demonstrate a level of minimum competency to make sure that they are truly being able to offer a quality of service to the people that are hiring them to do the great construction jobs we have within the city. So with that said, it's important that where we start and looking at what the existing contractor licensing requirements are. So if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll find the actual application. It's just a simple one-page application, and if you look at it close enough, I know you don't have magnifying glass, but there's nothing on there that asks anything about your background or your history. No competency requirements or questions at all. The 5 questions you see on the right-hand side is, here's what you need to become a licensed contractor within the city of Branson. A completed contractor license application, which I just demonstrated, a copy of your driver's license, so they can be a proper assignee for the responsible party, proof of current workers' compensation insurance with an exemption signature on the application, proof of the business registration with the state of Missouri, as well as a license fee of either $50 or $75, depending upon how many people work for that business. That is literally it. Literally anybody in this room can do those steps and go wire or electrify the Hilton, for example. It doesn't matter whether or not I've done it before or not, you can do that. So that's where we started. We started looking at that. There's no verification process as of right now to show proof of competency, or you might say as a trade or skill set. The city does also not require contractors to show proof of liability insurance. So when you think about it, and I know, and I really love hearing the stories about all the great business owners we have on the board, and even the people that were able to speak earlier. Whenever you have small business owners, that are looking at doing projects, or even people who are doing residential projects, you want to make sure, most importantly, when you're going to hire a contractor, you can trust what they're going to do is going to meet your needs, and it's going to be safe and well done. So how do we do that? And it's a city, we need to make sure we have a process in order to ensure that. So also, if you get a general contractor's license right now, it doesn't matter what skill set you're going after. For example, a plumber can get a permit right now to do electrical work, as well as vice versa, and a handyman can pull a permit to build a new construction, or excuse me, a new commercial structure as big as, for example, Mammoth Fieldhouse that we just heard about. So that really is what got us in motion. It was our objective to compare not only where we're at, but what are other similar jurisdictions in the surrounding area doing. So granted, we can look at other jurisdictions, larger places like St. Louis and Kansas City. However, it was very important to us to look at more local jurisdictions, particularly like Springfield, because they're dealing with and using contractors that are using the same contractor pool that are doing work within the city of Branson. The proximity is very important to us to take a look at that and take a look at what the city of Springfield is doing. And then I'm going to turn it over to Austin. He's going to speak a little bit not only as to the research that we did, but even what the state's licensing requirements are when it comes to the MEPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So like he pointed out, we wanted to find cities, municipalities, anything that's close to us that kind of mirrors our size, mirrors what we're wanting to do. So Springfield was kind of our natural first step. But before we even went there, we wanted to reach out to our local community and kind of see what they thought about this. So we reached out to the Springfield Contractors Association, which is like our closest governing body for contractors that does cover our region down here as well. Everything we received from them, we had unanimous support. We had 11 responses from those Springfield-based contractors that also work in Branson that all confirmed that they agree that they think the city of Branson should have more stringent policies towards our contractors. Our local contractors mirrored this support as well. It was stated many times that many contractors feel that they lose out on bids to fly-by-night contractors that never pull a permit and that never come in. And if you come in on a Saturday, well, we don't work Saturdays, so we're not going to catch you. So we reached out to several local contractors. Several of them were going to plan on being here tonight, but couldn't because of the weather, including Lightspeed Electrical. We do have Rick Castro with Castro Electric in the audience with us, and we thank him for being patient with us this evening, and also talked to Patriot Heat and Air and several others that are local contractors you've probably heard of. So again, we wanted to look at what do other governing bodies around us require. City of Springfield does have contractor requirements. They require all plumbing, electrical, mechanical work in new dwellings to be done by certified, bonded, and insured professionals. They do have a clause for homeowner permits, that if you own your home, you can get a permit to do your own water heater without being certified in that, in either plumbing or electrical. So how do you become a contractor in Springfield? They certify you, they go through, look at your background, check. They have you provide W-2s, and then they also administer third-party testing if they deem necessary. So again, this kind of goes to highlight that a little bit. They have a building trades and certification board that meets monthly and reviews all applications. This breaks down their process a little bit further, kind of like we talked about, and all of those additional requirements. They also, one thing that we wanted to note is that they also reciprocate from other jurisdictions. Mainly the larger jurisdictions that Mark had mentioned, St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, Missouri, and there's a few others. They also accept several different testing options, such as Prometric, Exterior Block, ICC tests, which the ICC is the International Code Council, of which we have adopted their codes. So moving forward, what Springfield does is they break contractors into 8 different categories for what we're wanting to reference today. Masters and journeymans in either electrical, mechanical, plumbing, or gas fitter trade. So if you have no previous certifications and you're accepted from the board, it gives those contractors an opportunity to take a test to show their ability to do their trade that they're desiring to do in the city of Springfield. You have to go through, they have a third-party testing center that they're contracted with, and you can take it up to a year. So we also wanted to look at what the overarching state requirements would be for contractors. And it's worth noting that the state does not mandate any requirements for any professional trade. Several states around us, such as Arkansas, for example, does. They do have requirements that to do electrical work, you have to be a certified state electrician, you have to have a journeyman's license or master's license, et cetera. In fact, the only certification even offered through the state is an electrical contractor's license. They accept a bunch of different things you'll see on the left-hand side of your screen there that they accept for that as well. We felt that was really worth noting because if you're in Arkansas, you at least have that level of faith in the state that they have vetted these contractors properly to do that work, and we do not have that in Missouri. So I'll turn it back over to Mark.
Thank you, Austin. So we presented very similar information that you're hearing this evening back at a study session several months ago, and since that time we had a great opportunity to not only vet this internally and take a look at the code and get legal eyes on this to make sure it really fits within the codification process that the city has, but we also had an opportunity to take a look at obviously what some of the other jurisdictions are doing and get real feedback to really see, okay, what are some of the contractors saying? What are the questions they have? We were really mindful of that. So it was important that we kind of tweaked a little bit of what the code amendment might potentially take a look at. Obviously, we presented a potential draft for your consideration earlier, but it has since changed, and I do want to rest assured that what you're considering this evening is somewhat different than what you saw the last time, but it was essentially just shuffling around other sections. We wanted to organize it and basically split up other business licensing requirements from specifically contractor licensing requirements. So if you really want to ask questions, why does it seem like it's so many sections? It's because of just the shuffling and organization, be consistent with the rest of the code. So I did want to be mindful to point that and highlight that out. But but just getting into, why should the city of Branson require proof of competency for contractor licensing? Obviously, it provides developers, homeowners, and other potential business owners with the peace of mind that they need whenever they're going to hire somebody, that they are hiring qualified professionals who have shown that they possess a satisfactory knowledge of their trade. And I'm so glad that Mr. Castor is here today because it's not really fair to somebody like him that has properly done and been in the field for as long as he has, and have to potentially lose a bid to somebody who's only ever done it for a day and may not have had the proper liability insurances or the experiences to prove that they can do the work competently. Plus, again, the peace of mind piece is very, very important. Traditionally, I don't know that people are hiring contractors and worried that, hey, am I really hiring a contractor that is competent? Because as of right now today, there's no difference between Mr. Castor and another electrician, for example. They both can put on their resume that if they've gone through the five-step process I highlighted at the beginning of the presentation, they both can put on their resume that they are licensed contractors within the city of Branson. No difference between their experience levels and competency. So moving on to the next one, obviously whenever providing value to the citizens is going to be very important. By contacting the finance office and requesting a list of City of Branson licensed professionals can actually be something to be beneficial to people looking to do a project. That way, whenever someone were to ask, for example, the finance office, who are the licensed contractors within the city, you're getting a list of good contractors. You're not necessarily getting a list of a variety of different people that have just done the five-step process. In order to reiterate, I think this is probably one of the most important points, is that as of right now, anyone can become a licensed contractor within the city and pull a permit for any scope of work, regardless of what their particular skill set is. With that said, we must note that the building division does still require a submittal process, obviously through in compliance with the inspection process and the typical submittal process you would get for building permits, et cetera. So that leads us into what our proposal starts to look like. And again, we wanted to take a look at particularly focusing right now on the mechanicals. I really feel like particularly electrical, plumbing, and mechanical, if anything is probably going to go wrong first, it might be there. And those are the trades that really require a very specific set of skills that we want to make sure that there is a skill set, a proficiency level there. So the immediate goal is to require contractors, particularly these MEPs, trades otherwise to provide that proof of competency. So we would be specifically looking at having a proof of insurance in the amount of $100,000 in liability insurance for these tradesmen, and they would have to provide a certificate to the city to prove that they have that, and have to do that annually when they renew. Secondly, in order to accept certifications, the International Code Council does have a variety of different ways you can go about becoming trained, either through trade school, either becoming a journeyman or a master's, and getting the certification to do that. Also, you could potentially look at other ways to prove that they have competency and just proving that they have 5 years experience. And if I got any feedback within the past couple of months, it's by some of those folks that say, well, hey, I'm not really officially, a master or a journeyman, but, I know that I've been doing the work. Well, hey, if you can prove 5 years of experience, you can get licensed. So we really want to be mindful that the people that are really doing the high quality work in the city can still get licensed. So I want to rest assured that we're not going to lose our high quality contractors that we do have within the city. But then also that it kind of shifts a little bit of the burden of proof to show that the experience levels can be reviewed within a designated review committee within city staff, and not go through the rigorous process, for example, that Springfield does by setting up a specific board to do that, even though appeals would still be able to be handled by the Board of Appeals. This requirement would pertain to any new work going forward, particularly for residential and commercial structures. This would obviously include remodels, new construction, additions, et cetera. But it would allow for a homeowner's exemption clause. So, for example, if you're going to be doing work on your own home, you don't have to become a licensed contractor if you feel like you're competent enough to do that work. But it would still allow an opportunity to vet, making sure that there's a period of time in which I can't continue to say, hey, I'm going to live in this house for 2 months, and move to this house for 2 months, move to this house, and flip them and continue to show that I'm truly a contractor. But it is important that we do have exceptions with this homeowner's clause. Also, it's important that whenever contractors are getting their business or building permits, for example, that we prove that they do have their contractor licensing. We have a process in which they can actually provide their contractor licensing number, as well as making sure that whenever we are going out and doing inspections with Austin and his team, that they can verify that the work is actually being done by an approved contractor. And then, again, the city does have processes already in place with regards to revocation of licensing. So we wanted to mimic what the other processes within the city code is. So we're going to use the same revocation process that is already within code. So there obviously are some other nuances to that, but those are the key highlights to what we're wanting to do. But at the end of the day, what we're looking to seek for your consideration this evening is for ensuring that contractors can be held to a high standard on commercial structures and residential structures. If enacted, the city of Branson will be offering a better service, safer structures, and the better experience to its residents, tourists, and business owners. And the city of Branson would be providing a better service to all those with a contractor licensing system based on competency and insurance. So those are the key highlights, and happy to highlight anything, but that's the key synopsis you have for me today. So thank you.
Mark, thank you for doing this. I think it's been a long time coming. The only question I would have is, as we transition into this, what do you do with people that already have an existing license?
So I'm glad you asked that question, because we're surely going to get these questions going forward. Obviously, if you have an existing license, what we're seeking to do is have this go into place starting in the new license year, which is May the 1st, is that correct? May the 1st. So we would have several months to get the news out, per se, to the existing contractors and make sure the community is aware. We're not going to essentially flip the switch tomorrow, for example, and make sure that people have to meet these new requirements. They would have them starting with the new licensing year, starting May the 1st.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from the audience? Questions, comments from the board? Chuck?
With this new structure you have going here, is this going to make the city liable for giving out this list to people? I mean, it's still up to the people to vet who they're hiring, right?
Well, yeah, certainly anybody currently has that opportunity to actually ask for that list now. So it wouldn't necessarily be any different than what we're doing now. In fact, I actually would say that we're giving a better quality list going forward. You can go to the finance office right now or go through Hillary and ask, request for records and get all that information right now. So essentially, it wouldn't be a whole lot different than it is now. So I would assume not if we're already doing it.
Anybody else?
So Mark, so if a business has already have a track record of 5 or 6 years, they've been a contractor, they're going to meet that, right at that minimum threshold. If they've got that track record and you guys look back and everything's cool with them, I mean, is this a situation where they have to go through all of this, or is that something you can look at and go like, okay, they've been pretty okay on the up and up, we can go ahead and approve them? Or do they, because, I guess my fear is that there'll be a time span where they feel like they can't operate. And, of course, if they're in a cycle, cash flow is everything. And, for a small business, 1 month down or 2 months down and could be the detriment of it. So is it something that is, pretty smooth operating, or do you see it operating in that fashion?
Yeah, so, obviously, at any given time, you don't necessarily have to apply. At any given time, you can apply to get your license. So, hypothetically, we could work through the process with anybody going forward. And when we start to vet this and send this out to the public, if this would be something you would consider enacting, we would make sure that we would walk them through the process. That's why it was very important that we set up a good partnership between the finance department and the planning and development department, because we both have, obviously, unique, different aspects that we want to look at. We want to look at the financial piece of it. We also want to look at, the development and the building competency piece. So it was a very good partnership to look at that. So, I guess if you're asking, like, with the gap in time, we really want to make sure people come to us sooner than later, and we'll probably that'll be part of our messaging when we get out there, so that they can send that information out to us. But we really expect to eliminate the whole setting up a board like Springfield did, that we wouldn't have to go through a whole formal meeting process to certify somebody. We can vet that internally. We will have a review procedure internally to be able to do that on a much faster method. And we know, obviously, that the first year is going to be harder because the renewal process is going to be much easier going forward. So obviously the first year this is going to be the hardest. So I don't know if...
And I think that's what I was, to the renewals, someone that's been, operating 5, 6 years already, you're not going to have them go back and go do all
Oh,
this
no,
stuff.
sir, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Kathy, based on Ralph's comment, if we have somebody, a existing contractor, and they come in last week of April to apply for their May 1st license, if this is new news to them, and I will expect it will be for some, I wonder if you'd consider a 60, 90-day grace period where maybe they would get a temporary approval and then give them whatever a fair amount of time is to go through what the requirements are and satisfy those to get their full license. Like Ralph said, I'd hate for somebody to come in April 20th to get their May 1st license, be told about this, and it'd be a surprise.
I think that's a reasonable approach, Mayor. And I just want to remind everybody, though, the reason behind what we're doing. We want to be supportive of small businesses, but we also have to protect the life and safety of people who are having work done on their homes or businesses. And unfortunately, what our code compliance folks and some of our building inspector folks have been seeing out there on the landscape is that we need to do a much better job to make sure the public can have confidence that when you get a license from the city of Branson, you actually know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, so we will do the best that we can to reach
Okay.
out to trade associations, social media blasts, press releases, everything we can do to get
Okay.
the word out to those and existing license holders. So obviously, we're going to be sending, just like what we did with the lodging safety initiative, is to make sure we're giving them like, hey, we're coming, right?
Yeah, so that's...
we'll do a good job of that.
That's a good point.
And
We have the names and addresses of all existing,
Correct.
so we can notify them in advance.
It
Okay,
shouldn't be new news to them.
fair enough.
But if it is, we can have those conversations. And I don't expect there to be very many of those, frankly, but we'll certainly consider.
Fair
it.
enough.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Yes, I just want to say thank you. I know in the past that we used to have the requirement for liability, and I don't know when that was taken out, so I'm very glad that that's back in. And you had a question up there, and it just set something off when you said why require this? Because we do not want to be a buyer beware city. That is huge.
Yeah.
So for the protection of our citizens, so thank you so much.
Cody?
Mark, if you explain this, I apologize, but in the situation like Patriot Heat and Air, Lightspeed, I see in here where it says a firm can apply for the license. So in that situation, if you have a company that has, multiple HVAC installers or electricians or whatever it is, so it's the company that applies and everybody that works under that company is covered? Or does each employee in that trade also have to apply?
So traditionally, how that works is, why they even have the separation between masters and journeymen is that traditionally those companies will have a master, and regardless of how many journeymen or trainees under them that they have, they're all going to report to a master. And the expectation is that if the master's applying on behalf of their business, then they're going to make sure that their people are doing the right thing. I mean, granted, obviously we have to make sure that even through the inspection process, that's truly being done. But one thing I failed to mention, because I didn't want to bring it down to a negative side of things, but we did implement structure into the code amendment that allows us that if someone repetitively continues to do work poorly or do the things that aren't up to code, that there are violations that we can enact and fines and things like that to ensure that they will reroute the speed. Because my assumption is if I'm a master and someone's working under my license and I'm now all of a sudden potentially not going to be able to do work in the city anymore because of a violation, I'm going to tell them to get their act together. But that's how we were looking at it. Doesn't mean that you couldn't have multiple people potentially licensed, but yes, I'm glad you asked that question, because surely the expectation is that one of the primary person, and they could have obviously multiple masters within an organization, but you'd have at least one, and then the people underneath them would be able to work under that.
Okay, and I apologize because this is
Well, I didn't explain
way
it.
beyond my realm of expertise, but if you have a company, and I don't know this to be the case, but we'll just use Lightspeed for purposes of the example. If Lightspeed doesn't have somebody that meets the qualifications of a master electrician, but they have electricians, are they still going to be able to get licensed? That's what I'm looking for some clarification on. So is it?
Yeah, sure. So it's basically 3 different categories if you really want to boil it down. It's if you're a master or you're a journeyman, or you can prove that you've had 5 years of experience. So even people that are within the company, maybe they didn't go through the process to become an official journeyman, for example, underneath a master. They still can prove that they've had 5 years experience. They still can become licensed. The assumption is obviously depending on the larger the project, the more people they're going to need. So you don't necessarily have to have everyone on the job be a master. They're going to have people working underneath them and reporting to somebody that's, the supervisor, for example.
But is there, for the company that wants to get licensed, is there any requirement that they have to have a certain level of expertise for the company to be licensed? In other words, do they have to have somebody that's a master equivalent in order for the company to be licensed?
No.
Okay.
Mark, because like that journeyman category would also conceivably have had licensure, right, at some point, right? It's just a different, it's like an apprenticeship kind of a thing.
Exactly.
But they also will need a license as well to even get to that level. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the next item is a public hearing and first reading of Bill Number 6403, an ordinance amending Chapter 94-60 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to the table of permitted uses.
We will now open this public hearing and begin with the staff report from Mark.
Thank you, Your Honor, again. We have this public hearing for you today because we just had a public hearing also with the Planning and Zoning Commission with regards to a staff-sponsored amendment to the municipal code, specifically 9460, related to permitted uses. So anytime we amend the code, obviously we have to have a public hearing. We had that at the Planning Commission. Now we're having it here. And the rationale for that is that anytime you're amending the code, you want to make sure people are alert to that. We had a really nice, robust conversation at the last Planning Commission meeting, excuse me, not last, I guess it was in December's Planning Commission meeting, related to this. And what we did is we split the table of uses amendment into 2 sections. So you'll see one was the Article 5, Section 9461, that's the table of uses, specifically look at tattoo parlors. That's the first one. And the second one is specifically amending the same table of uses for modular versus manufactured housing and where they are allowed or permitted by right, which I will speak to in a little bit more detail. specifically related to the first one, so I'll speak to them individually one at a time. The first one we looked at is tattoo parlors. We've seen an increasing number of tattoo parlor inquiries going into a variety of different zoning districts in the city, and staff, anytime we get those, we want to be mindful that the current zoning does be mindful of the development trends within the city. But here's the definition of tattoo parlor. I don't need to define that for you, but one thing that you might not be particularly aware of is that currently there's obviously only a couple of districts that a tattoo parlor is allowed by right within. And if you can see the table, the snippet of the table, the very last line indicates it's permitted use within community, commercial, MU, downtown, and entertainment. So a lot of, and actually interestingly, we've had multiple ask for it to be within the neighborhood commercial or NC zone. So we wanted to take a look at is that part and parcel with some of the other things that are within those particular zoning districts. So, again, this being a staff-sponsored code amendment consideration, we really wanted to take a deeper dive into that and see if that made sense. We found that tattoo parlors were closely related to some of the other, excuse me, I went too far. Some of the other same service-related things like barber shops, beauty shops, and spas. And you're like, oh, how can you compare a tattoo parlor to those? And what I found interesting is looking into this is that the state of Missouri does actually have an increasingly tedious steps in related to becoming a licensed tattoo parlor within the state. So the state has its own licensing requirements that include CPR training, OSHA blood become pathogens course, a tattoo artist training of 300 hours, proof of practical experience, inspections, as well as business licensing. So all these things are required by a tattoo parlor. So when you traditionally compare a neighborhood commercial district, you're looking at, well, it's not really the CC, it's not intensive commercial, it's more on the fringe of your neighborhood. So you really want to make sure that that makes sense. But looking at it, it really seemed like it fit within the type of other spas and barbershops and things like that. So what we took to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which was here for consideration tonight, is the change to allow the tattoo parlor to be a permitted by right land use within the neighborhood commercial district, which then will accompany the CC, the MU, the D, and the entertainment and the business district. So take a quick pause. So that's the first consideration. And then the second consideration is we're looking at constantly at the table uses and the things that are coming. In fact, we have some others that are coming down the pike that I'm not going to get into tonight because I know it's already running long. But what we have also for your consideration is when we were looking at the table uses, we found that when you were looking at manufactured homes and mobile housing, we really found that maybe some of the definitions, for example, might not be quite sufficient of really how you're seeing that in the development community. And why I say that is sometimes people are getting that confused because a modular house, for example, is becoming increasingly more sophisticated. And even manufacturing homes, like how can you really compare? A modular home can be very, very similar to a manufactured home, so why have completely different requirements? So previously, modular, we were looking at the difference between allowing by special use in each one of these districts. You see ag, low-density residential, medium-density residential, and high-density residential for each one of these land uses. So we started digging into, how could you specifically define modular housing? So again, I'm not necessarily going to define all of this, but the key piece with modular is it's essentially built off-site and brought on the site. However, if you see the picture, it's probably a good feeling for that because once constructed on-site, it looks very, very similar to a traditional single-family home. It's just the sub-elements, the individual walls, everything like that's built off-site, trucked in, and then assembled in essentially like a kit. But the important piece between this and what we'll speak to in a moment is this is considered real property. It will go along with the land, whereas manufacturing housing, one of the key things is you look at portable structure, vehicle trailer, mobile home. Those are some of the definitions that go along with manufactured structures. But the key piece is this is actually titled separately. This is personal property, so it's not quite like a real property. So with that said, taking a look at, well, how does that really affect the neighborhoods that they're going in? And do you really want to have those two different kinds of land uses within your neighborhoods? And when we had a discussion at the Planning Commission, one thing that became pretty clear is that by going through the special use process through the Planning Commission, and there's a whole series of different requirements that special use permittees are vetted by, it provides an extra level of scrutiny for these to come in. Instead of allowing it by right, for example, having mobile homes being allowed by right within all those districts, ag, LDR, MDR, and HDR, really thought, does that really make sense? And staff and I were thinking about this, and we actually thought there might be an error in the ordinance. We just didn't feel like it fit within those districts. So again, this being a staff sponsored, we wanted to take this before Planning Commission. We actually wanted to invert them, but then, so you'll actually see some of how this was, is instead of having special use for modular and then allowable by right for mobile, we actually wanted to invert them. However, whenever we had the discussion at the Planning Commission, I thought it was important, well, if you're going to vet modular, for example, through special use process, why would you not do that for mobile? Or vice versa, excuse me. So what the Planning Commission chose to do is actually have a slight tweak to what the Planning Commission's suggestion was, and allow both manufactured and mobile home go through the special use permitting process to be built on a particular site. And why that's important, and why you want to understand why this is important. If I'm potentially owning property in a neighborhood and I have a vacant lot next to me, it's very important to me that my property values are preserved. And depending upon what type of structure is going next to me, I might have a problem with what somebody's doing. Obviously, this is America. You can do whatever you want on your own personal property in some respects. However, there are way different ways and different ramifications how modular and mobile comes to be. So as I mentioned, for example, modular homes can look very, very similar to existing stick-built homes. But in this process, at least for now, what we're proposing is that this all goes through special use so that those additional considerations can be made, and then there is a special opportunity for the public to be able to come to these meetings and say, okay, well, I may have a problem with this or that, and then it has a special extra vetting process. Note that some of the Planning Commission's sentiment was maybe have further conversations about this, but at least for now, to not continue to allow mobile homes to go through as a permitted by right in all those different residential districts, and kind of at least slow the flow, even though I want to make you feel like there's a plague of this happening, but at least wanted to be mindful that if there is an error in the ordinance, and what the original consideration was, is we wanted to fix that error per se. So the Planning Commission ultimately is recommending your board's approval of this as amending to keep to keep modular as special use for LDR, HDR, and MDR, and then change manufacturing homes to a special use permit modular housing as special use. So both manufacturing and modular will be special use. So apologize it took so long to explain that, but it was an interesting process going through all that.
Mark, if you don't mind, something like this, I trust our planning and zoning board to get into the weeds with a lot of these decisions. Personally, I don't know that there's a single difference with somebody who brings the materials on site, builds a stick-built home, or has the home built off-site, modular, brought and assembled on site. To me, there should be no special use permit if the guy's nailing on the property or nailing over here. And the same is manufactured. That is a stick-built home built here and located and secured to the land, right? Mobile homes, what are you calling it up here? Not manufactured. Are you calling a manufactured home a mobile home? then I completely agree. There should be a distinct difference between a mobile home and a stick-built home, whether it's built on or off-site.
Can I make a couple of comments here? Yes, it was an interesting meeting, Mark. The first thing that we request is having 2 different items come in as one item. So in the future, they'll be separated so that we can make a decision to pull one or do whatever. Because we were all in agreement with the tattoo parlor, that made sense. But with the second one, the reasoning behind the special use permit for both is because we're going to go back into some of the history because we do have mobile home zoning. And so it has been the practice in the past, and I don't know when it changed, that mobile homes are allowed to be located, mobile home manufacturing as defined, and our definitions are kind of odd, to just go into the mobile home manufactured home designated zoning districts. And then for the modular, yes, we agree, and by definition too, the modulars are put together on site, and they are real estate. The manufactured are personal property.
Okay, Ruth, I'm reading up there. However, during discussion regarding the manufactured and modular housing, the commission recommended amending the table uses to include both modular and manufactured housing as a special use permit.
Yes, that's.
So my question is, why would a modular home require a special use permit?
We're keeping them both as, let me know if I'm mixing this up, keeping them both as a special use permit, allowing the planning and zoning and staff to have time to separate the definitions, because a lot of things have changed in the ordinance, and we want to do a backtrack because the definitions have been switched. And so there's an error. So there was just too many things that we needed to amend at the meeting. So planning and zoning and staff is going to look at putting in the correct definitions and correct zoning designations.
So what are we being asked for to vote on tonight?
Do you mind if I summarize?
What was your name again? Of course, Mark.
Sure. So actually, I'm glad Ruth pointed out the 2 different separate conversations, and I do apologize, it's somewhat confusing. So you'll see the first table, it's just a snippet of the permitted uses table. It's, as Alderman Denham pointed out, it's looking at tattoo parlors. That's the first thing, and allowing that as a permitted use.
Okay, forget tattoos.
That's the first thing. So the second thing would be, as of right now, in the city, the zoning map allows as a by right manufactured homes in all of those residential districts.
When you say manufactured?
Yeah.
Mobile,
Mobile?
yes.
Okay.
And then also by special use
What's
is
our disagree with?
manufactured. So
Can you repeat, just say that
Yeah.
again now that because I don't think of a manufactured home as a mobile home. I think of it as I get what you're saying, but, so you're saying, would you repeat that again so I can
So
soak that
as
in?
the way the ordinance reads right now, manufactured homes, which is, if you go look at the definition, it's unanimous with mobile home, is allowable by right in all of these residential districts.
Okay.
And also that modular homes is special use. So,
Why would a modular require special use?
well, hence why it was a staff-sponsored code amendment tweak. But to Alderman Denham's point, we need to clean up the definitions, is really what it comes to.
Okay, so what are you asking us to vote on tonight?
So the planning
If you need
commission
to go clean up the
amended.
definitions, we should wait till the definition's cleaned up to vote on it.
So it was the planning commission's recommendation to make sure that, these things, until this is vetted properly and we go through the background and make sure, how did the definitions get the way they did? How did the table get the way that it did? Is to keep modular as special use. That would not change. So actually, the way this table should read, that should still be in black. And then it would change, manufactured then to be by special use. So both would be by special use. So it's not that they could still do it, they just have to go through the special permitting process within each one of those
Yeah,
Mark,
districts.
can I interrupt you, Mark, real quick? I'm trying to get to the mayor's question. Is the goal to impede the ability for people to bring in a manufactured house, a mobile home, into a regular subdivision? Is that what we're trying to stem?
That was the intent, yes.
So that's what we're doing right now as a stopgap measure, is to disallow that from happening without a special use.
Right.
In the meanwhile, you guys are going to go back and and update and refine the definitions of modular homes and manufactured homes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So-
So this is just a stopgap in order to disallow trailer.
So a yes vote would mean mobile homes would not be allowed to park in a residential?
Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay, that's all you had to say from the
Sorry.
beginning. Okay, is your presentation
It is, yes,
complete?
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone in the audience? Sheree, do you have a question? Lisa? No. Any members on the board have any questions? Marshall?
Mr. Mayor, I have a little bit of heartburn with how this is presented, being both of these are together. And Ruth spoke to that. Personally, my father lives in Pennsylvania. You go up to a place like that, and almost the entire community is essentially neighborhood commercial. You have houses on top of laundromats, and there's no distinction. As the community of Branson and other communities that are probably more Midwestern, we've chosen not to go down that route. So I don't know, I might have some heartburn with the first one of tattoo parlors being allowed in neighborhood commercial, but I would sure like to vote on these individually.
Kathy? What I'm hearing is you have board members up here that are okay with one and not the other, or the other one and not.
Well, my recommendation would be, why don't you make a motion to split the two topic areas? Right?
vote on
We
them
can make that
independently?
work, can't we?
Hillary?
Yes.
Yes.
We could, you could do a motion to postpone, and then we could clean it up and have
You
one
want to postpone
complete
this
if
whole
you-
thing?
if
Let's
you-
do that.
Can I make a comment before you postpone? Because I get the goal here, but understand where, like, some are already available. Like, people don't just go buy mobile homes and move them in. You order them. There are a year, 2 years out. People are paying for these literally ahead just to get in the queue. Like, and I know this because I have a company up in just north of Springfield, Three Stone Homes, that do this, and they are 2 years out. So if we change this, and somebody gets their order in, and now they can't put their home on their property, like, that poses a huge problem.
We'll send them over to Hollister.
Send them over
I
to
didn't say
Hollister.
that out loud on the record.
So, and I guess my
Forgive
question.
me, Lamar.
I've sat on that planning and zoning board, and I've seen people request special use permits. It gets
So what do
pretty
you-
rabid.
So what are you saying?
I think we should postpone this and it get cleaned up a little bit.
May I add, Mr. Mayor, if we do postpone this, this will allow mobile homes to be located in any zoning district in the city. So that's what we wanted to avoid by requesting this special use permit. It is a stopgap measure, and it will protect that from happening and allow time to amend the ordinance.
Okay, Joe?
We'll expedite this, Mayor and Aldermen. I mean, we can turn this around. We can make this an A-plus priority to be able to turn that around very quickly.
Okay.
And I apologize for the
Joe?
kerfuffle.
Joe, do we have any issue if there's a motion made to separate these two, we vote on them independently?
No, there's not an issue there. You are in the middle of a public hearing for the item that was advertised at this point. We've kind of moved beyond the public hearing part and gotten into the meat and potatoes. But
Oh, I should have
it
closed it
sounds-
before I asked for comment.
Correct.
Correct.
So, but what I would tell you is it sounds like this ordinance is not quite ready for the board's consideration based on board feedback. I would recommend that you would close the public hearing, have a motion to postpone this item, direct staff to go back and make edits the way you would need to. You may need to take this back through a planning and zoning commission hearing again before. It's hard to know at this point how substantive the changes would be.
Okay. Now close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to table this item.
Should it be tabled?
Motion to postpone, please.
Motion to postpone, Mr. Mayor.
Does it need to be date specific?
You can postpone indefinitely at this point so that you can make a determination later when it would be proper to bring it back.
Postpone indefinitely as my motion.
Indefinitely.
Second.
We have motion is second. Any discussion from the audience? Discussion from the board? Go ahead, Clay.
So the problem is the tattoos are attached to, I mean.
Right now, they're allowed in a NC zoning.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ruth? Ruth keeps looking with big eyes, so I know she's thinking. Can I just say I'm not against mobile homes too, by the way?
I'm not either.
It was my very first home I ever owned.
I'm not
But I
against
get not having them in a, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I'm getting I feel that if we postpone this indefinitely, it will be taken care of quickly, and we'll come back to the board.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Your Honor, the next item is a public hearing and first reading of Bill Number 6404, an ordinance approving the vacation of a portion of Oklahoma Street in the Rourke subdivision, First Edition, Branson, Missouri.
We'll now open a public hearing. The staff report from Mark.
All right. Thank you again, Your Honor. And I promise this will go much faster. Again, this is looking at a public hearing because I took this to the Planning Commission, and it's also your consideration for public hearing today to look at the vacation of right-of-way for Chris and Melissa Davis. Chad, can you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if Chris is online? Okay, regardless. So Chris is the applicant, and he actually requested to be online. However, obviously, I guess he's not attending, but he was able to speak to his proposal at the Planning Commission meeting, so I can reiterate some of his thoughts. But ultimately, the intent of his proposal was to vacate a portion of Oklahoma Street in the Roark subdivision within the city. It is the portion of the right-of-way to be vacated it's partially wooded currently and has an existing driveway that goes to the existing home, to homes on 205 and 207 Walnut Lane, and a city street has not been constructed within said right-of-way. So that's some of the background.
So Mark, if
Yes,
you
sir.
look at the map, this is the right-of-way that's being asked to be vacated?
Yes, sir.
And in which house does Chris live in?
That one, yes.
This one. So Chris lives here, and he is asking to vacate this.
Correct.
And what about that homeowner?
So the way the vacation will work is essentially half of the neighboring property, the right-of-way on that section will go to that neighbor, and then basically the other 3/4 of the right-of-way will go to Mr. Davis. So he'll get the entirety of between his property, and if you can see, the vacant lot just to the northwest of the neighboring home is a vacant lot. He owns that as well. So that's his intent. So that's what he voiced at the Planning Commission meeting is the reason why he wants to vacate the right-of-way is he wants to be able to construct a structure. I'm assuming it's maybe a house. It wasn't 100% certain as to what it was going to be, but.
He is online if you have
he
questions, the applicant is.
Perfect.
So the Davises own this home.
Correct.
Own this lot.
Yes.
They own this lot.
Yes.
And this is the right-of-way.
Correct.
And so the right-of-way will be divided how?
So there'll be a line will come down from this,
Yeah.
right down the middle point
Yeah.
on this part will go to this property, and then the rest of it will go to Mr. Davis.
And this property owner is in agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and one thing that I was going to mention on the next slide is one thing we always do with these vacation right-of-ways is we won't take it to Planning Commission and subsequently to your board unless the applicant verifies that they checked with all the reasonable utilities in the area in case they need that right-of-way. So every single one of them has gotten back to the city and indicated that they do not need that right-of-way.
Okay.
And then one thing I failed to mention, just a nuance is that if you should choose to approve this, then a subdivision adding these properties will have to be filed so that will officially be connected to the neighboring properties, and then Mr. Davis will be able to connect his properties fully.
Who will be paying for the replatting and,
Mr. Davis.
okay. Is there anything else on this request?
That is
That's it?
essentially all I have in consideration for
Okay.
for that item.
Anybody in the audience have any questions? Mr. Davis, you're online. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just exactly like was stated, we hope to build a house on that back property if we're able to subdivide and join them together. So that's really our aim.
Good for you. We need more houses. Any questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor? There
you go.
I'm closing the public hearing. Any questions from the board?
Can we get a motion on the floor
Oh,
really quick?
brother.
Motion and second.
See, it's getting that hour. So do I have a motion approving this?
Second.
We have motion and second. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the board? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you very much.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6405, an ordinance amending Section 54-137 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to background checks for security permit holders.
You have heard the first reading of Bill Number 6405. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report from Eric.
Your Honor and members of the board, thank you. Basically, we're cleaning up language in the code here to allow us to conduct the correct background checks and charge those seeking the permits to be a security guard in the city for those background checks. Something over the course of the last couple months, we discovered a hole in our system, and we wanted to clean it up to make sure we're ensuring that people that are helping secure the city are meeting our background requirements. And so staff does recommend passing this.
Yeah, I read that in the report, and it made a lot of sense. Anybody in the audience have any questions? Any members of the board have any questions? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6406, an ordinance amending Section 86-598 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to maximum towing charges.
You've heard the first reading of Bill Number 6406. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. We'll get a staff report from Eric. I read this in the report, and I'm glad we're taking action on that.
Yes, again, this is something that we're cleaning up on. Because we use a tow rotation list, we don't have a contract with a certain vendor. And unfortunately, there is a potential for mischarging and misuse that can result in people being charged higher costs for a police-related tow. This recommendation is only for police-requested tows. And again, it is a reflection on our city if we're kind of forcing people into paying more than a normal rate would be. So this gives us the ability to keep tabs on current industry standards, know what the charges are. It provides the leeway for special tows, so out of a ravine or something like that. But it just limits the potential for gouging. And so we do recommend approval of this bill.
Thank you. I have received a call on that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Any members of the audience have any comments or questions? Apparently Clay is chomping at the bit.
Oh, no, I just had a question. Like, when that happens, like if you're talking about like if there's a wreck or something, then you guys call next in line, but then the towing company invoices that person directly?
Yes.
So that wouldn't change?
Correct. So the police-related tows are either abandoned vehicles, traffic hazards, accidents where the person's incapacitated and can't arrange for the tow on their own, or police impound.
So how does this help regulate gouging?
Because we will set the max price.
Yeah, that's what
Yes.
that's what I thought.
That if you're going to be put on our rotation list, you have to agree to that max price list. And if you don't, you will not be part of the rotation list.
Awesome.
Clay, I was contacted by somebody that knows we have a rotation. And the luck of the draw, the person that was next up charged considerably more than the others, and they didn't think that was fair. It's not fair. Cody?
Chief, what happens in a situation where not to be named alderman has their trailer erroneously towed and it doesn't get actually towed away? Is there still a fee for that?
Yeah, the same situation that you're referring to would apply. And again, we refer back to ordinance on that, and I would disagree with the erroneously.
Of course you would.
Hey, Chief. Do the price discrepancies of what they charge, does that ever have anything to do with, you call them in the middle of the night? Or is it just like, because I know something about this, and you call one of them in the middle of the night, they don't want to take it, you just move down the list kind of thing? I mean, is that basically how it works?
So no, the ones that are on our rotation, they do understand they're going to be called in the middle of the night. And in fact, the majority of police impounds occur in the middle of the night for things like driving while ability impaired or something along those lines. They know that comes with it. It really kind of revolves. There's this whole thing with insurance and not insurance and everything. And there's just this, it presents an ability, because it's a police-related mandated situation, to jack up the price kind of unnecessarily than what you would be working in under a free enterprise type situation. And again, that reflects negatively on us. When we do find out about it, we will remove the people from the list. But the problem is sometimes we don't find out about it for a while because people don't complain. This sets the standard ahead of time. It's a fair playing ground for all the tow companies that want to contract and do business in the city. And it just, like I said, I would say that you have a number of tow operators that are behind this change as well.
Got it. So do the majority of the tow companies have the same equipment essentially, or do some can perform tow jobs that others can't?
Yeah, so the majority have the same, probably I would say this is, I'd say about 80 to 90% are going to be your normal flatbed type tow, right? Every so often we get a motorhome or a semi or something like that requires, something more special. We had a very complicated accident last year where we had to bring in something that could basically crane something out of a pond type situation. So that's what I'm saying. It was one of the things I checked with my commander that helped craft this with Mr. Lauber's lawyer, is they do still have the ability to charge the right amount for a very complicated tow. If you're towing a car up a 300-foot ravine, of course there's going to be additional charges with that.
Or a motor coach maybe. Yeah.
Exactly.
Any other questions from the board?
Thank you for doing this. That's good.
Yes, and just so you know, that originated with new Lieutenant Waymeyer. He came up with that in working and looking through some of our stuff. So he's the one that identified both of these things that we voted on.
Excellent. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you, Chief.
The next item is a resolution approving the contract amendment with TrafOp Corp. For automated traffic signal performance measures and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract.
Do you have a motion adopting this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report from Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. The City of Branson approved a contract with Traffic Corp for the purchase of the ATS PM software, so automated traffic signal performance measures, around in June for $79,320. It was a 5-year contract. We appreciate your support of that. When going through looking at all the signals, the traffic signal performance hardware that's installed at 2 different intersections at Branson Hill Parkway was installed for free. So it was a test area that we were operating on. This contract amendment is to add the performance measure software costs for these 2 intersections into the major contract that's there for 5 years also for $6,429. So I broke that down because I was kind of interested in it. So 5 years is $1,285 for the 2, so $642 or $1.76 a day. So this is just supporting our software that lets us count all the intersection reports and helps us provide that economic activity reports to each of you. Our developers use it, we all use it, and it also alerts us 24 hours a day of some of the things that are going on. So what we're basically doing is putting everything in one nice package for 5 years, but it was a little bit ahead of time until this contract ended, or the free break-in period did for Branson Hills Parkway. So we love your support to add this on, and we have budgeted money there to take care of it.
So Michael, how much, what's the ask, the dollar amount?
The ask today is $6,429 for a total contract now of $85,750.68 for 5 years
For 5
for
years.
every signal that we own.
Okay.
We're just getting in compliance and putting it all in one boat package, but we waited a little bit to save some money, so a couple months.
It's in your budget?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the audience? Questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Michael.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill number 6407, an ordinance repealing resolution number 2013 R016 and amending Chapter 2 by adding Article 7 to the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to open meetings and records, custodian of records, and a written sunshine law policy for the city of Branson.
You've heard the first reading of Bill 6407. A motion approving this bill.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and the Honorable Hillary will give us a report.
Okay. So per statute, the city must appoint custodian of records and have a written policy in compliance with 610. In the past, we've done this via resolution. We had to make a few minor changes, so we thought we would take the opportunity to codify this policy to make it more easily accessible. So the changes before you mirror state statute and follow our current practice. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Good job. Any questions, comments from the audience? Questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Whew. We're at the report section of the meeting. We'll start with Alderman LeBlanc.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to say
Thank
Happy
you,
New Year.
Alderman
Yep.
LeBlanc. We'll move on to, oh, go ahead.
Happy New Year to everyone. Wow. Thank you to everyone that gave me some input into the approval of the contract that we voted on earlier, residents and business people. I think it was very important getting that input because it really gave me some clarification as to make my decision, because my decision wasn't based on picking a winner or a loser, as some people may believe. It was basically what I feel, based on the input that I had, was best for the community. And I think it was a good thing. And I look forward to 2024. I know we got some exciting things happening, and I look forward to see some of those projects rolling out and getting done. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck? Marshall?
Mr. Mayor, Angie was here for a while tonight, the new manager at the convention center. And I took her up on her offer yesterday to go kind of tour the facility with her. Although I've been in it many times, it was nice to kind of get a formal tour, see kind of some of her visions she has for possible expansion, the future of that facility, and also just share some of my opinions on the future of Branson. So that was very great. I think the leadership that we were all had lauded before at the convention center is going to be mirrored under this new leadership, and I'm really excited about that. And I encourage my other aldermen, if you haven't yet, to take her up on that offer and maybe go do a tour there. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Marshall. Clay?
Well, I, as Alderman LeBlanc, would like to thank the people that reached out to me to support my decision to vote no on that development deal as well. So thank you, guys, and I'm glad I could support that decision.
Thank you. Ruth?
Just a happy new year to everybody. Thank you, city staff, for everything that you do. You're greatly, greatly appreciated. We have a great board, and I had a new baby great-grandson on December 18th, and his name is Rhodes.
Aw. Cody?
Even though certain aldermen may have had his trailer towed erroneously, who we won't name. I would like to just take this opportunity again to thank our law enforcement. A lot of areas of our country are not appreciated. It is a thankless job for a lot of places, but here we do appreciate you. We do know you guys put your life on the line for us every day. And so, in all seriousness, thank you, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Kathy? It's been a long meeting. Just very briefly, I am tickled with what we've accomplished in '23. The harmony on this board, I think, is very, very healthy. I'm excited about 2024. Our directors, I believe, are huffing and puffing, which is a good thing. So I'm just going to say Happy New Year, and I'm ready to keep moving this ship forward. And thank you, Joe. So what do we do? Adjourn here. Do I have a motion to adjourn this Board of Aldermen meeting? Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.